Good morning, lads, lasses, and non-binary folk. How are we all feeling today? Feeling spick and spam? Feeling ready to face the world? Feeling a bit like a strange tea leaf? Heated up and ready to go? Hello, Andy. Hello, Zeno. I finally made it. Make it seem as if you traveled through the desert over many miles to find my scream. And if you did, well, thank you. It's very kind. Oh, I'm not expecting this scream to be quite like the, what are we looking for in the word? Yakuza screams, but, you know, in popularity. But yes, oh goodness. Can you guys hear that? Somebody decided to start mowing their lawn across the road from my office. Right as I started, the moment I pressed go live, the bloody fellows started going, cheeky sod. Oh, good. The audio settings are clearly good enough, because it's bloody loud for me. Oh, very funny. But yes. How are we all feeling? Anything exciting happened recently? A few things exciting happened to me that I didn't talk about in the Yakuza stream on the weekend. But, you know, this kind of just chatting thing, I don't really do it that much. I've done it once before. I've done sort of just chatting things, or free talk, or whatever phrase you so desire to add to you. But the interesting thing is, I always never had the confidence. We're getting a 4-day weekend for school, so that's nice. Oh, that is nice. And is it a public holiday where you are? Sort of a, like a pupil-free day, or is it an actual proper public holiday, like the Queen's birthday or something? I'm not too sure when the Queen's birthday is, but... Is that why? Ah, goodness, I remember the days of pupil-free days, and... Truly. Something nice to remember, you know? President's Day. Oh, I see. Oh, I suppose you... Yeah, that doesn't make sense that you would... yes, no, that makes sense. I forgot that, Americans existed for a moment, though. Before I get onto much else, though, I'm just gonna show you... You can see the picture. Oh, my hands. I forgot about my hands. Don't worry, I'll get it up. I can point. Yeah. Ah. Look upon the glory. That, my friends, is called Buddha's Tears. Hello, J-Hank. This one's called Buddha's Tears. It's a very dramatic sounding tea. Look at them, they're little orbs. I should probably move myself up a bit. Yes, look at those little orbs. Hands. Ooh. Ooh. Yes, look at them. They're little orbs. It gets sold by a company here called T2. It's the premier accessible tea company in Australia. And this is one of their more fancy teas. I grabbed it because there was a tiny one I could buy and I was interested in seeing what it tasted like. Orbs, yes. Tea orbs. But... Dun, 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 dun. There's nothing there. But there is now. That's what those tea orbs turn into. Oh, wrong one. There we are. See what the tea orbs turn into? Kind of this weird viney leaf. Well, it looks like it turns into looks like it turns into a seaweed, actually. Those seaweeds that sit from the bottom of the ocean and go all the way up, the really tall ones. It unfurls to a very interesting looking tea, and it has quite a nice fragrance, actually. It's a mix of a specific type of green tea and jasmine, I believe, which gives it this sort of nice floral taste and smell. And also, do you like the cup? I think the cups... I finally found them! I knew I had them somewhere. I have 2 of these. Silly face cups. One looks like he's like a meh. The other is a bit, more like he's had a bit of fun with the devil's lettuce. I should have used that one, that's much funnier. But yes, it has a seaweed taste, but it has this beautiful... Weird name for a tea, yes. I'm not too sure where the name came from. I could look it up, I suppose. There's the other name, these are their rare teas, they call them. They're in these black Buddha. Yes, it's a happy Buddha below him. With his tongue out. He's not making the teas right now, but this is part of their more fancy, luxurious teas. They're these black boxed teas. Except I got a fancy little box. Look at my little box with the Buddha's tears in it. But yes, they have, I really wanted to grab one of their see-through cups so you could see it properly, and I could see it properly, but I had to pour it into another cup afterwards. But, Buddha's tears. Just say tea. Doesn't have anything about it. The fancy orb, yes. Jasmine pearls or dragon pearls is also their second name. I'm not much of a tea aficionado, but according to this, Buddha's tears, also known as jasmine pearls or dragon pearls. I think dragon pearls would have been much cooler. Called them, I am here. Hello, Zeno. We're talking about tea. I'll quickly show you what the tea used to look like before it. This is what the tea used to look like. Yes, they are all fancy names, but that probably means it's a fancy tea. I assume. Yes, that's what it used to look like, Zeno. I think it should have gone with the Dragon Orm's name. Reminds me of Dragon Ball Z. Maybe if I collect 7 of these little orbs, I can make a tiny tea-based wish. Organically grown in China. Fujia. High quality, naturally scented with jasmine, made from young, fresh leaves that are very pleasant and floral. Neither overwhelming nor artificial. It's true. It is neither overwhelming nor artificial. We don't carry a large amount of stock of this one, so the time between getting harvest and you getting your tea is drastically reduced. I see. So it's fresher, I suppose. I'm not too sure how that works. I'm not much of a tea person. But it is very fancy. Fancy, fancy tea. T2 has another couple of rare teas. I'm so bored today. Oh dear. Fighting a Yakuza boss right now. Might not talk for a few minutes. Fair enough. I've been doing well in Yakuza. I've gotten a fair ways through the cabaret minigame, actually. And that's a shame that you're bored, Zeno. I hope that I can provide some entertainment. What would you normally be doing while you're bored? Is there some sort of reason for it? Or is it just one of those days? Well, I hope this makes you not bored anymore, yes. T2. Rare teas. T2. See, there was a couple of other rare teas, but this is the only one that had, that it was easy to get. In a smaller bottle. Because, yeah, it's very interesting. I think the other one was called Silver Needles. There was another one called Silver Needles. If you think that's fancy. Needles. It's a white tea, I believe, using white tea leaves. So there was another one called Silver Needles. These are not cheap teas for tea. Made from the exquisite white-tipped buds picked from the Wui Mountains. A sweet, subtle flavor with floral notes. But yes, Silver Needles. The cup is smiling. He's planning something. He is. Fear this silly cup. Should have taken a picture of the other one. Give me a moment. I'm going to freeze frame for a moment. While I swap around. And get another tea cup to show you. I have an exorbitantly large amount of strange mugs. Oh, that was a terrible photo. Excuse me, this photo was terrible. I have to take another one. Now we can go back. Oh yeah. Now let me pull this into OBS. But yes, you think this one's planning something? The other one is not planning anything at all. I can assure you, because you'll see its face and well, you'll know why. Vtuber screen pics. It's my file names. There he is. Look at the old fella. He's having a good time, this tea. This old tea mug. Living his best life. I have to put which tea in that one. Because I've got a fair few teas. I picked them up on, just before, on Saturday. I went to one of the big supermarkets when visiting my nephew. And we went on a good walk, and I bought a fair bit to supply myself with things to talk about at the beginning of all my day streams. I have a tea here called Licorice Legs. It's made with the root, fennel seeds, and peppermint. It's licorice. I'm not too sure why it's called Licorice Legs, though. I suppose if I look at the tea, I might be able to find out. No, it doesn't make it any better. Just looks like tea. He's not planning something because he already did it. Oh dear. What was his plan? To heist all the devil's lettuce from the nearby criminals? Because that's what it looks like he's done. He's already done it. He's heisted. Look at him. Happy little bastard, ain't he? Right, smoked all of the devil's lettuce. I love saying devil's lettuce. It's probably one of my favorite things to say. Oh, you got him, Andy? Hey, good job. Clap, 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 clap. But yes, I've gotten a fair ways through that cabaret minigame over the last few days, and I have murdered, using the power of a shocking shotgun, poor old Mr. Shakedown. And Majima says of the story, you can't actually do the shakedown exploit, but you can just shoot him 100 times. Shoot him so many times. I think I've beaten him upwards of 50 times, because he gives you about 1 billion yen each time. Not the most efficient way to farm, but, you know, it doesn't take too long. Spent all yesterday doing that. Yes! By tomorrow's stream, I should have the cabaret minigame all finished up, and we'll have the legend style for poor old Majima. He deserves something cool. I'd be curious to see what it is, actually. But yes, don't worry too much, I've got a lot of free time right now. It's the bonus for being as old as I am. No one expects me to go anywhere. But yes. Goodness. Ugh. Oh, this just chatting thing is very strange. Let's be a bit meta for a moment. But no, just chatting is an interesting concept. You see, I wonder if I don't do it as much because I always talk myself out to my family. You see, I'm quite close to my family still. I talk to them almost every day. Over the phone, or over Facebook, or that sort of thing. So it's kind of interesting to think that perhaps there's a reason why I don't like doing just chatting streams. Or perhaps not like doing them, that's probably a poor way of putting it. Maybe it's more of a, look at that beard stroke. Maybe it's more of a, I'll talk myself out before I get into the stream, and then, you know, I have nothing to say. I feel like I'm boring, or worried that I'll be boring, you know? Because I've done one of these before a very long time ago, but after that, the just chatting style streams are actually done. No one expects nothing, so you play a game, it's kind of like going back to childhood. That's fair enough. No one expects nothing. That's a good point. But it's strange, because, yeah, when I did these kind of Just Chatting streams, I usually tend to, do something like, reading poetry, or, you know, short stories and the like, or having, you know, songs, or music, or singing. That's the sort of thing I do normally. But this time I wanted just to nail myself down, to sit down and just talk for a while, you know? Maybe even set up some topics, if I get, you know, lost. You aren't boring, trust me. Well, thank you very much. It's very kind. I'm gonna run out of this tea far too quickly. Maybe I should make second teacup. That would be nice. This Buddha's Tears stuff is good, though. It's quite nice. I'm a bit soft on the kind of floral flavors some things can bring. There was, what was I drinking that was floral? I've forgotten. There was a drink I had once floral. But yes. Yes, no one expects nothing. That's a very good way of putting it, J-Hank, actually. Don't think about it like that. You feel like no one expects nothing. That's certainly true. It's all business in my head, so it feels like I should be giving a good trade in this situation. But games can get tiring. They can get tiring indeed. But it's very interesting now that that's the case. Maybe it's my age, maybe it's not, but I could never really play games that much. Most of the times I play games is on stream, actually. I did play about the same amount off-screen, but now I almost entirely play on-screen unless I have some reason to play off-screen. It's very interesting. Most of the time I'm sitting here reading books, or thinking about my next obsession, my current obsession, which is cocktail making. It's a very curious thing about all of this. Games. I wonder how much... We're still in... What chapter were we in? Yakuza. How long have we got going on that game? Tell me. What's the last chapter-based... glamorous life. I can't remember what chapter we're on. 11 or something. But yes. Don't know how long we got on that, but we still got a bit of time to play it. It'll be very interesting to get back to it, actually. I think we'll be focusing entirely on the story for the next few streams, so we might finish it quite soon if that's the case. Because I don't think I ran into any side quests when I was with Majima. Very strange. I got that Chinese bloody broadsword! I forgot about that. You know how it didn't give me that Chinese broadsword 100 times? Well, considering I was playing it a long time, I just kept getting the session they get hard out of nowhere and you end up stuck in some random part of the game. Yes. Yes, it can get quite tiring. And that's the case. I'm afraid of things. I'm very glad that I've played so many video games over my time, even though I didn't grow up with them. My nieces and nephews did, and so, you know, I was able to pick up a lot from them. And also, you got a lot of practice when they wanted to play. They always had to have an extra person. See, there was quite a few of them, and there was always an odd number, and they liked, you know, all the controllers being used, so I always would sneak in and play Mario Party or Mario Kart, or try and help them with hard levels in Mario 64. You can tell when they were mostly playing around the PS1, Mario 60, you know, and Nintendo 64 sort of era. They did have a Nintendo 64 for a while, one of my family groups, and what the bloody hell do I call them? One of my sister's children. I couldn't suddenly remember what to call. See, it's not my whole nieces and nephews aren't one single group. I've just realised. What the hell would you call that? When I say nieces and nephews, I'm referring to all of my sisters and brothers' younger children. But there's a lot of them, so... well, just didn't think about that, actually. That sort of thing was quite fun, and so I got quite good at things. And then in more recent years, when my nieces and nephews were in high school, in the 2000s and the 2010s, I think the last of my nephews got out of high school back in, 2016, so it wasn't all that long ago. But he's the youngest of all of them. So... very interesting. But he was the one who actually showed the Souls series to me, actually. He needed them... Why I ended up playing it, actually, speaking of getting stuck in games, is, when it came out, his mother, my sister, didn't let him play video games during the week. Very common thing. Hell, I wasn't even allowed to watch TV during the week when I was younger. Granted, TV was tiny, black and white, and well, wasn't quite. It wasn't very exciting as it is these days. It's all these fancy colours on it. But it is true that I was only allowed to read books. I was restricted in the things I could do by my parents as well back in the day. Especially when I had to go to school and concentrate on working and studying. Little did they know I never did anything. Well, they did know, but they only found out when my report card came in. But yes, my nephew couldn't, well, my nephews and nieces couldn't play video games during the week. And at one point, something happened and my sister said, Eric, could you, just borrow their consoles for a while? I know it's not as a thing, but apparently they really weren't doing their homework, just refusing to do their homework. Yeah, teenagers always like to be, what is the word for it? Rebellious, that's what I was looking for. I don't know why I forgot that. So, for a period of 2 weeks while their exams were on, I had their consoles. And I had a bit of free time. And before I took the console, my nephew actually recommended that I play the first Souls game that he had, Dark Souls, actually. And so, that's when it began. I spent a bit of time, and I'm glad I had the time. Good God. Oh. I was off work for a while because of a break I took. I took a bit of holidays to give myself some time to recover. And it was sitting around those times where I took the fewest holiday days to get the most amount of time, sort of thing. Do you still have the consoles? I did give those consoles back, but I did end up getting my own because of it. Because before that, I would keep a console in the house, usually of the older generation. Just so my nieces and nephews had something to do when they came to the house when they were younger. But it was the first time I went, you know what, I actually will pick up one of those Xbox 360s. It's also around then. I already played Halo Reach at their house, but I also got to play it then too, by myself. It was quite nice. Didn't play it as much on that console as I did. But no, I didn't keep the consoles. It would be very funny if I had. The exam period never ends for my nieces and nephews. I only have the consoles. Though I do have a lot of their games. And the console is in the family storage shed. Their consoles. A lot of them moved to smaller apartments and they didn't have as much space for all the video game consoles. So a lot of them either stayed at their parents' house, so, you know, my sister's place, or they came to the shed and stayed there because they weren't being used by professionals. They're all older now, except for the nephew I was just talking about. Those two nephews, well, one of them's got a full-time job. Let's not be mean to him, he's probably listening to this. Get a job. Come on, mate. Get it together. Job market's not that hard. It is. Poor guy. But he still has some of his consoles, but only the new ones. Through my recommendation, he actually managed to acquire himself a PlayStation 5. So both me and him have one. Should play Elden Ring together. Maybe we should do that. You've probably heard the nephew anyway. I think he came on to help us with the piano music at one point. But yes, anyone in there had those sort of family restrictions? My sister certainly liked them. Borrow the consoles again till your nephew gets a job. Well, he said he's getting a job to cover the time. He's trained in a in a career that's quite difficult right now, considering he can't go overseas. So, unfortunately, that's just how it is. He's stuck in limbo, unfortunately. He's applying for jobs, but no one's actually hiring right now until they know that the country's going to open up. Because like me, he actually went and trained in, well, I trained in medicine and then into a bit of education. He trained in, teaching English as well. Didn't know more about it, though. Actually got a proper education degree. I did not, but that's because you didn't do that back when I got it. You didn't get a proper education degree, you got a diploma. What's your favorite fighting style in Yakuza? Let me get to that, let me finish what I was saying first. What was I saying? Yes. So that kind of job needs foreign students. And so unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be able to get a job for a while. But he did say he's got an interview at one of the... just at a place. Just a retail place, so he can just keep his money flowing in, so it's fine. He's still staying with my sister, it's alright. He's not got much... He does pay rent, but he's also a good saver like I am, so... Well, like most of our family is, I don't know why I said like he is. So, he should be fine for a while. I don't need to take his consoles away. It'd be distraught if I did. But my favorite fighting style in Yakuza... You know, I haven't had... Barring the legend styles. I'm gonna bar the legend styles out of both people. I don't know what Majima's is, but if it's as cool as the Kiryu one... I think I'll, you know, bar both of those styles. So, we're just talking about the 6 styles that you'd get normally. And I think, out of those... Well, let's choose one for each and then do a playoffs. So, in Majima, let's go with Majima first. We've got the Breaker style, very stylish, very cool. Problem is, it's practically useless against anyone who has that stupid hyper armor shenanigans, and most bosses do. So that's upsetting. What is it, Thug? Thug style? It's fun. I do like the breaking of the neck. A lot of puns could be made from that one. What was the last one? Ah, the Bat style. Very strong, but... Breaker is pretty fun, yeah. The Bat. The Bat? That's Thug style. It's... I'm confused. I'm gonna have to look this up now. What are the 3 styles? So... Majima... Yakuza 0, Majima... Yakuza 0, Majima... Majima styles. Slugger! That's what I was looking for, thank you. So, Thug, Breaker, and Slugger. Out of those 3... Oh, somebody emailed me. Oh, somebody did. Those 3 styles. Oh. The Thug is useful. The Slugger is the strongest. And the Breaker is, I think, the most stylish. So which one do I like the most? I have to think I always think it like that. It's a bit annoying, you know. Strongest of all these styles. The Slugger is fun. It is very satisfying to conk someone with a bat. Hit a home run with somebody's cranium. So I'd say... It's out of usefulness. It's between the Breaker and the Slugger. Sorry, Thug, you're just too ordinary. Like most thugs I know. Small, insignificant, and really not catching that many people's attention until they threaten them with a knife. Oh... The Breaker is very silly, but I have such a negative view of it when I think back on it because it never works in fights when I want it to. So I'd have to go with Slugger. If you add in, like, the weapons styles you can do. Thug is just a rip-off brawler. Well, that's probably true. But if you add in the weapons that you can use and get finishes with, then yes, I'll say Slugger. Let's go with Slugger. For Majima. When Kiryu, you have his brawler. Wow, there's a When I looked up Kiryu's fighting styles, it said, Yakuza 10 Yakuza 10 hidden details you never noticed about Kiryu's fighting style. I'm gonna open that. I'm gonna see the 10 hidden details we never noticed. But yes, Beast, Brawler, and Rush. That's it. Beast, Brawler, and Rush. Rush! Meh. It's interesting. There is some cool counter stuff you can do with Rush, like the elbowing the fist sort of thing. That was very cool. You could do like the go back against the wall sort of thing. That's also very cool. But I really think I like Beast the most. There's just something so fun about beating someone to death with a motorcycle. It's just ending the cycle of violence with a motor. Yeah, Rush's breaker, but boring, fair enough. Ending the cycle of violence with a motorcycle. And extreme violence. But yes, Beast, it's very fun. It's not the most creative and quite difficult if you don't have anything to use, but as long as there's items to beat someone down with, I think Beast is my favorite of Kiryu's. It's just satisfying. It seems I'm a slow and steady sort of person, eh? Slow and steady beats the man to death. It's also nice not being interrupted every 3 seconds. Granted, that still happens when they shoot you or tase you, but I think I'm resistant to that now with all my styles upgraded. So out of Slugger and Beast, I'm gonna say Beast. I like Beast better. The Slugger's fun, but Beast is just raw, you know. This is raw catharsis to Beast. And I have a soft spot for Kiryu, I suppose. Kiryu's fighting styles. I always think more positively of them because I haven't had as much trouble with the training missions and the like in Kiryu's side of things. I think, for some reason, Majima's fighting styles always felt a bit less useful. I always found myself being more annoyed in fights and in training with Majima rather than Kiryu. Kiryu's training went smoothly, quickly, and I've really had much trouble with it. But Majima's, I feel like I've had more inconveniences over time, and it's built up a sort of negative image in my head. Get that what I mean? Well, you don't quite know why, but you've got a clear difference in when you think back on something, you have a positive reaction, you know? I think it's more Kiryu's style has given me a more positive memory. I don't know if that's making any sense to anyone, but you get what I mean. So it's very interesting. But yes, that is my thoughts. Yeah, I get it. Wonderful. Just the ramblings, but I do think that's how I consider things. But yes, I wonder what it is about Majima's styles. It just, I feel like I had a lot more annoyances that built up over time with Majima's style. Maybe it just wasn't as well designed, maybe it wasn't as powerful, maybe I'm just a man who likes wiping the floor with my opponents. And that was much easier to do with the Beast style because of its large range. The Bat did have larger range, the Bat, but it still didn't have as large. I felt the Beast style just had a lot of better strength. I don't know. Who knows? I couldn't say, maybe. Very, very good. And yes, I wonder what other styles in the other Yakuza games he plays. Interesting. I don't know if we'll play Yakuza game for a while after this one, though. Goodness. Goodness, we've already been going for 30 minutes. Oh, time flies. But yes, it's actually, speaking of time flying, it's worryingly close to my, actually, I'm gonna jump over and see if I can. If I jump over to my, channel, my, It's worryingly close, if I remember correctly, to, what is it? Get back here. When I, first started streaming, I believe. When did I join? Do I know the exact date? Join March 11th. Have you played God Hand? It's really good beat 'em up for PS2. I have heard of God Hand. I only know one person in amongst the people I know, not even my family. I don't think anyone in my family actually picked it up and played it. But I have heard of it. And I watched a funny video about it once. But, yes. It's been on my mind. I wonder if I can find a proper one and play it on the old PS2, considering I've got one. Maybe I should go find a PS2, the actual physical copy of it. Play it on the PS2. That would be funny. In tiny 480p, instead of having to emulate it. But yes, I joined March 11th, but I think I did my first stream a bit different then. Let's get my videos. But yes, because I think my year is coming up very quickly. Coming up very soon. Just finished chapter 15. Oh, good job. Oh dear. Tiny 480. Yeah, 4080i. Yes. Oh, the days. Nearing the end. Oh, look at you. Make sure you don't spoil anything, mate. But here it is. Okay. When was this made? March 28th was my first stream. Not even 480p. No, it isn't. It's a tiny little box. Tiny little thing. I always forget that's the case. I'm so spoiled by these fancy monitors with their big resolutions. And I think back and I'm like, oh, that's how... You know that sort of bias you get with your memory? That you remember everything being bigger when you were younger. So, the old TV that I had back in the day, I got sent home from school to watch the space race, was tiny compared to the TVs of today, but you don't remember it. To you, it's the biggest thing in the world. It's tiny. The resolution of the original space race was absolutely... Video. Have all this high quality. Yes. Aspect ratio 4:3. Yeah. 200 TV lines. Resolution 200 lines. Later, Outrun on 2006 on the PS2 at 480p, and the game crashed. Ouch. Imagine that. 320 lines of resolution. Goodness gracious. But yes. Interesting. You know, I didn't know Outrun was a franchise like that. Huh. You didn't realize Outrun was on the actual PlayStation 2, eh? Or were you trying to emulate Outrun on a PlayStation 2, J-Hank? Outrun. Good old Outrun. Yes, too. Oh, there it is. Oh, I didn't realize it had a 3D version. I only ever remembered the actual original. Outrun 2006. Eh? I think I still have my PlayStation games here. Ugh. Vigilante 8. Ah, what a great game. The original PlayStation. Vigilante 8. And Vigilante 8 Second Offense, actually. I have both of them. What a game and a half. Power Rangers, Time Force. I'm shocked half of these games still functioned by the time I got to them. The old PlayStation 1 discs with the black backing were not nearly as... Outrun 2 in 2006 came out for PSP? PSP? Yeah. Goodness. PSP is always a lot older than I realise. You see, no one in my extended family ever got a PSP. They all were satisfied with consoles. Also, none of my extended family were rich enough to afford one. Especially in Australia. PSPs are very interesting. I played one once. I don't think I played PSP again after that. I played Nintendo DS plenty of times. In fact, I have a green Animal Crossing Nintendo DS back from when Animal Crossing New Leaf came out. Crossing New Leaf. Was it New Leaf? Yes. Was it New Leaf? No, was it? I can't remember anymore. But yes, PSP is a lot older than you think, mostly because I didn't see it until relatively recently, so my brain just thinks that's when it was actually made. Had a PSP for a time, it was great. The only game I played on PSP was a isometric, maybe third-person sort of Diablo-esque game. You know? What was it called? Remember, DSs are ancient too, for you guys. DSs are quite an old little piece of kit. So, it's no surprise PSPs are, but what was it? A Diablo-esque game. You know how Diablo is that sort of zoomed out click thing? Reminds me of the original Sacred, actually. Anyone remember Sacred? You know, Sacred Gold and all that. It sort of reminded me of that. What was it called? PSP Diablo-like game. Clearly somebody else has been looking for this game. But yes, that's the only one I ever remember playing. Untold Legends. It must be that one. That sounds very familiar. Yes, that was it. Untold Bloody Legends. My nephew played it as well. See, the PSP was owned by... well, I suppose my nieces and nephews, but they weren't really my nieces and nephews. They were family friends that were... we just call them. The birds, yes, that's just what it's going to be. I'm next to a tree and I could close the window, but doesn't it sound natural? Doesn't it give you a sort of ASMR feeling, you know? Listen to the sounds of nature. Screeching birds. The Australian experience. I don't even hear them. I honestly don't even hear the birds. Like, when you mention them, it was the first time I heard them. Because I don't hear them anymore. They're just constant here, those sort of birds. You just don't hear them. The only ones I do hear all the times are the curlews, but you'll never hear them. They're at night time, and they always do it at like 3 in the morning. Those things, they're loud. But yes, Sacred. Ah, goodness. I actually did a full playthrough of Sacred as a dark elf, I think. I did like the unique weapons and armors you could get in that game. That was fun for like the classes. That was interesting. I used to choose dark elves a lot in video games back then. Back when I was playing games like that. First time I played Skyrim, I also chose a dark elf. I just liked the idea of dark elves. You see, I'd read Darkness at Sethanon. There they are. There's a book by Feast, I think, called Darkness at Sethanon. And there's a lot of... it's part of a series, so don't start with Darkness at Sethanon, start with Magician. Hearing the birds, the wind, and the emu at your door trying to get in. There he is. I wonder what that is, actually. I should get my book for Australian birds and find out. But yes, or just message my mother. She's a bit of a bird person. She's a good piano player, and once there was a certain tune, she calls it the Magpies song, because, or the Magpies? Yes, I think it was Magpies. The Magpies at the front, the beach where she used to live, yes. She did move to a more inland area. Used to have a certain tune. And she actually was a good enough piano player that she heard the tune enough that she sat down and actually made like a nice little song around the Song of the Magpies, because they had this very specific couple of 3-toned notes they would sing in their song. It was very interesting. But yes, more of a bird person than I was. Remember when the war was declared on the emus? Yes! Funny thing, that. I do love the descriptions of the old emu war. Very, very silly. Real wild bastard, ain't he? He's getting closer. A nuisance wildlife management military operation. Done in 32. Absolutely hilarious. Because they kept destroying the farms. And the fact that we lost, indeed. Well, you didn't lose. The Australians did, and I did, technically. Even though I wasn't alive then. I know I look that old, but I'm not quite that old. I was actually tempted to make a add bit to my backstory. I was actually some sort of mysterious old immortal old man, but, you know. I decided being old was unique enough. Ah, there's a little bastard. It's a peewee. It's a peewee magpie. He's jumped into my fence right outside my window. I think he knows the stream is happening. He's trying to be involved. Old. Getting closer. Run. Nothing's worth the risk. Oh, it's. Oh, he's off. He's off. He got scared off. He was scared by me. He really got close then. He was probably less than a few meters away from the window. He wanted to be involved. Old Stevie. Stevie the peewee. He just wanted to be. He thought it would be 15 minutes of fame. Yeah, he was wanted to be in the spotlight. The birds work for the bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie. Ah, it's very good. Very good. Bourgeoisie. That's a good one. Oh, goodness gracious. Bourgeoisie. Oh, I'm stealing that one. That is definitely. That is one I'm gonna use later. Bourgeoisie. Oh, that is. Beautiful. Just beautiful. But yes, the Emu War. Very strange that. Couple of machine guns versus a heap of emus. Didn't really work. Instead they just, you know, asked everyone else just to hunt them instead. Look at that! Oh, check that out! Despite the problems with the cull, farmers once again requested military assistance and they be turned down. Instead, the bounty system. Instead, a bounty system was instigated. This proved to be effective with 57,000 bounties claimed over a 6-month period. It reminds me, anyone else heard of that bounty that the British made in India? For snakes? Anyone remember that one? Snake bounty failure. Yes, there it is. The pursive incentive is an incentive that is an unintended and undesirable result that is contrary to the intentions of its designers. The Cobra effect is the most direct kind of perverse incentive. Typically because the incentive unintentionally rewards people for making the issue worse. I believe, if I remember, it was the British rule during India. Possibly ahistorical. We don't know if it was actually true. It was coined by a British economist, I think. Or something like that. But yes, the British government wanted to get rid of the snakes. So they asked people to kill snakes and give them in, and they paid them. Problem is, people started breeding snakes to earn money. And then just giving the government snakes, pretending as if they had caught them from the wild. The government found this out, but stopped collecting bounties for snakes, and then these people who had bred all these snakes released them into the wild, and now they had a much worse snake problem. And that is why, it's also related to the road, how incorrect stimulation in economics and politics can cause unintended consequences, and is the example of the proverb, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I suppose it is related to that one. But anyone heard of that particular funny little anecdote? It's very interesting. I always thought it was a funny little story, even though it may not be real, but that's the same with things like the story about how the espresso martini was created. It was almost entirely a tall tale. But, you know, somebody's gonna have a yarn to make it entertaining to be at their bar other than just the alcohol. Yes. Anyone else here play Sacred? Going back to the Sacred topic, I'm actually quite curious. Sacred was an interesting game, but I never played the other ones. I know Sacred 3 came out, but I never played the other Sacred games. I only ever played Sacred 1, and I think I've played it twice, with 2 different characters. Proved to be my obsession with Dark Elves at the time, but... I say, obsession with Dark Elves. It was quite a while that I always chose Dark Elves in games. I don't know, they were just fun to choose. Always liked choosing specifically non-human characters that were just non-human enough. The funs of it. These days I just choose an old man. I realise there's no point in making something different. So I like making myself. I've got to love my face, so I keep doing it. Yeah, Sacred. Good old point and click that was. Point and click, in a way. A click RPG or whatever they're called. Back in the day. And that was how people made video games. Because yes! But nothing was sacred because they made about 6 of them. Increasingly less well received. Because nothing is sacred. Very, very funny. Oh, goodness gracious, alright. I suppose we'll move on to one of the topics. I played the first one a long, long time ago. Well, it's the same with me, I suppose. I've recently, 10 years ago, played it again. Because I picked it up something. Game. Good morning, Tiberian. How are you? Sacred video game. What was it originally released? We're talking about Sacred, the old video game. So, yeah, good old 2004. Oh, nothing is sacred anymore. No, not even sacred. Yes, I probably played it pretty soon after it released originally because my sister was more likely to buy my nieces and nephews those sort of games, so I played it a bit at their place, and then I grabbed it myself, and then because a few people, so a little sleepy, yeah. Fair enough. But yes, a few people didn't like that game as much. It was a couple of pre-owned versions around, so it's quite cheap actually to get it for the PC. And it was a bit of fun. Kept the kids entertained for a while. I played it a bit. And then I didn't play it again until probably 10 years afterwards. Or maybe not. 5 years, 7 years. Felt like a decade ago, but it was probably 2010, 2011. Just before Skyrim, actually. But yes, it wasn't until actually about... I'd have to say 2013, as I played the Dark Souls game, thinking of playing things that released in 2013. I didn't play Dark Souls until about 2013. Souls 1. Yeah, it was 2011. 11 days after Skyrim, correct? Skyrim, no, that's September. It'd be November Skyrim was in, because it was 11/11/11. They're really proud of themselves for that one. Goodness. I can only imagine the crunch that was required for Skyrim to get them to release on that day. Goodness. They must have tried very hard to get the game and release on that day, and considering what I heard about it when it was first released, that probably wasn't a good idea. Poor old Todd. I just realized I'm talking with an underbite for some reason. You can't see it because my face doesn't move forward in this. I can't mess with my... bastard, my jaw. Oh. Really should stop messing with my jaw. But yes. It's very interesting. This sort of thing. Words cannot state how ready and excited and waiting I am. I await with bated breath a week and a half from now. Or just 10 days, 10 days, just under 10 days from now, when the next Souls-like game comes along. Imagine they're releasing the game in the same day as one of the most popular games of all time. Oh dear. Games released at this, and I'm back. Oh, good. Skyrim. I assume that's what you're talking about. Because what came out on this? I'm not too sure what came out at the same time as. Or was it Dark Souls that came out at the same time? Ah, it was September. But yes. Beat Yakuza 3 finally? Oh, did you, Ben Zeno? Goodness. As what? Yes, that's what I'm wondering about. What released at the same time as what? Please, J-Heg, bestow upon us the sacred knowledge. I clearly haven't got my news and games at that, but then again, it's probably true. Most of my games stuff was absorbed through my nieces and nephews and what they recommended as Skyrim. Yes. Well, let's be honest. Considering how many times they've re-released that Skyrim game over the years, it's a much more common thing than you'd think. Probably multiple games that have released at the same time as Skyrim. I wonder how many times a game has been killed by that, though. That's my curious thought. What game has probably suffered badly because they were released at the same time as Skyrim? Maybe I should sit myself up a bit. Ah, well, I'll sit myself low. Screen. Yes. Ah! You cannot understate how ready I am for the 25th. Moby Games might have released games. Yes. What am I looking for? What am I looking for? Ah. Oh, excuse me. Oh dear. No. Oh, I lost my shade of thought because I was thinking about Elden Ring too much. Do you know yet if you enjoyed Needy Scream? It was an experience. And it did cause an emotional reaction, so it's a good piece of art. I certainly enjoyed it alongside with you fellas. It was quite interesting. I feel like I was able to show a different side of myself in that. Well, different side of myself. A different way of thinking. It was tough, though. But I wouldn't, by no means was it a bad game, Needy Screamer. I think it was alright. It's the same time as many Skyrim or GTA mini re-releases. Yes. Happens. Re-releases for popular games. Have they ever made another GTA? Didn't they recently come out with a... I heard on the grapevine that... Oh, excuse me. Oh. It came out... They came out with a remake of one of the older games with cheat codes included. So... How'd that go, actually? Because they haven't released a new GTA for a while. Capitalized on that sort of live service format, I suppose. A lot of people still play GTA. It's amazing. Yeah, the trilogy. Nope, still in GTA 5. Yeah, the trilogy, yeah. Was it any good? A good re-release? A proper one? On a scale of, like... you know, the Spyro remaster, and the Crash Bandicoot remaster, and the Blue Point Games remaster. What, it was a disaster? Alright. It were a disaster. It were a disaster, mate. Gone a bit Scottish there, Tiberian. Suddenly got an accent. But yes, it was a disaster, I see. Suppose it's no Demon Souls, Crash Bandicoot, what was it? Spyro remaster, I suppose. Which probably means, what did they do to it? Did they not bother to make any of the assets properly? And they just, what, scale up the textures? Put it into a new engine? Didn't do anything with it? They've been milking GTA 5 for so long. That's the live service format for you, mate. It's the future of video games. Definitive. It was a definitive edition. Definitive on how bad they are. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. They released some pre-built on the phone versions of the games and they didn't work right at all. Wow. They tried to make it into a mobile game? I suppose that could have worked. I'm surprised they've never put Pokemon onto a mobile game platform, you know? Other than Pokemon. Should fail for GTA 5 for PS5. It's so stupid. Alright. We can. Trailer for GTA 5. Looks the exact same. Enhanced graphics. Is there a side-by-side we can look at? Because we could jump over to the screen, watch some videos, but yes. Phone version. I always thought Pokemon in particular would work very well, because I saw a lot of people using Pokemon emulators on phones on, like, the train and the like. A few years ago, I remember. What was it? Probably 2017, maybe 2016. I used to see people on the train all the time with the Pokemon Emerald or something. I think it was Emerald. And they would have it on their phone. It's very interesting. I always wanted to do that. I think it would work well. Ah, shame Nintendo doesn't own a phone company. Because they probably would have put it on phone then. Goodness gracious me. I don't know, right. Pokemon work on mobile. Could. And technically it did. With old Pokemon Go, the Pokemon Go fever. Tried to emulate, but couldn't get it working correctly. Yeah. It's much easier to emulate on a computer. I've actually emulated a few Pokemon games. You see, me and my nephew, one of my other nephews who really likes Pokemon challenge runs, we did a bit of a Pokemon a short one. We were trying to, we didn't do it for very long, but we tried to do a Pokemon randomizer challenge. We did like we would play to a certain point in the game, not to the end of the game, but a certain point in the game, and we'd collect Pokemon on our journey, and then we fight each other at the end of it. So we did a bit of a challenge run with that, and it was randomized. And it was a bit of a Nuzlocke style thing, so first Pokemon you caught in each region, you know, each area, you're allowed to eventually build into a final team. And I can't remember where we went to in the end. These streams last the same amount of time as the others? Well, that's really... I haven't actually thought about how long this is going to go, actually. But yeah, I don't know. The game we emulated, by the way, I think was Diamond and Pearl. That series. We emulated that with a randomizer. Does that one have a randomizer? Maybe it was Emerald, actually. I think I still have the emulator somewhere on my computer. Let me have a look. Where's the emulator? I don't know if it's a bad thing to admit I have an emulator, but... yes. It was Emerald, actually. It's been fun so far, though. Oh, that's true. Thank you. I think, actually, it was Emerald. Not Diamond and Pearl. I thought it was Diamond and Pearl because that's the one that he really likes. That's an interesting mug. An ugh. Oh, hello, Mac. I have another one, too. Let me show you that one. I have a second mug. I guess the Diamond and Pearl are very popular amongst VTubers. Very good pun, though. Very good, Matt. Like that. There's the other ugh. There you go. It's just a happy Buddha, Mac, because I'm drinking Buddha's tears, otherwise known as dragon pearls or jasmine tears. What an entrance. Yes, it was a bit of an entrance. Oh, but yes. Oh, very good to meet you, Mac. Meet you? Like I've met you? It's very good to meet you. I've never met you before. Oh, yes, yes. Shake my hand. Yeah. Goodness. Yes, there's the other ugh for you. I have two of them. Get that away, but yes. The Diamond and Pearl was very popular among VTubers, but I'm sure it was. But how was that Arceus game? I've heard a lot of good things about that Legends Arceus. Should I play the Pokemon Arceus Legends? I have a Switch, so I could. Should I play that one on stream at some point? Maybe not. Maybe just play a couple of episodes of it. Episodes. On this episode of Eric Winters has no idea what he's doing in a video game. He promises that he will do the story and instead gets distracted by side questing. Goodness, episodes. That is one ugly Buddha. Have you seen some of the Buddhas people make? Elden Ring comes out next week. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be playing much else for a while, but Elden Ring is probably a lot shorter than a Pokemon game. Dragon Buddha's tears, yes. I think it's Dragon. I remember. But they've gone with Buddha's tears for some reason. It is very nice. It's a very delicate floral taste to the tea. So, it's very interesting, actually. Dragon pearls, yes. Jasmine pearls or dragon pearls. I still buy it, though. Yes, it's a jasmine green tea mech. And other than the fact they chose Buddha's tears instead of dragon pearls for a name, like, personally, of being a fan of... Doesn't he look like he's crying? Does he? Which... What, the cup that's up right now? Does it look like it's crying? Goodness. I don't really see that. It's got crow's feet like I do. But yes, other than being a Dragon Ball Z fan and preferring the name for, you know, Dragon Pearls, because it feels like if I collect enough of these rare teas, I can do a tiny tea-based wish on the tiny pearl. Oh, let me show you the pearls, by the way. They should still be behind there. There's the pearls, by the way. There's the pearls. That's what they look like. It's not a very flattering image. They look better on the line. You can look them up. But that's the image that I've got. Love loose leaf teas. Yes, there's a fun loose leaf tea, this one, because it unfurls into a nice little thing. It's quite nice. But yes, that's it. Beat the final hours and you become the champion. Yeah, the final four and become the champion. That is technically the end of a Pokemon game. Depends how intense you want it. It has a whole PvP thing about it. Player versus player shenanigans. Goodness. My nose is itchy today. I'm not sneezing, but I'm bloody about to rub my nose off like marker off a piece of glass. Ugh. Yes, this is a good loose leaf tea, this Buddha's tear. It's subtle, very floral, but has a nice green tea undertone. Very easily burnt, though, so you have to be careful. You can't put it in too hot water, otherwise you'll burn your tea. A lot of green teas are the same. On the Tree Drinking Chain where we were drinking different teas. Well, I actually picked up a lot of teas on Saturday in preparation for having something to begin the stream with on my days that I don't have alcohol to talk about. So I went to T2, the premier weird tea company in Australia. Very easily accessible. Has a lot of strange stuff. They also have Silver Needles, another rare tea made with white tea. They have Darjeeling tea. I can never remember. Darjeeling, that's it. First Flush, another one. And they also have one of the really expensive Japanese green teas. I can't remember the one it is, though. The premium Japanese green tea, the fancy one. Not matcha, the other one. Nayugokuro or something like that? I forgot what I am up to. But I only picked up Buddha's tears because they had a small packet that was, you know, not going to cost me $50. It would have lasted me a while. I also have a tea called Licorice Legs. Don't know what that one tastes like, though. I'd need to get a jug, though. Get a nice jug here and just start pouring different cups of tea and sipping them. I also got a tea called A Little Touch of Gold, A Little Bag of Gold. Powdered turmeric and rooibos. Good old red tea. Turmeric, cinnamon, ginger, rooibos, and black pepper. What a strange tea. It is a surname, though. I really need to figure out how to say that. Suzanne. Tisane. That's it. I always keep forgetting how to pronounce it. But yes, it is a tisane rather than a tea. But Licorice Legs is also a loose leaf herbal tisane that uses the root that they use for licorice, fennel seeds, and peppermint to make a tea that is just licorice. All mine are at work. Let's see if I can find them. Oh dear. It's not really talking much. Don't you worry, you talk plenty. Otherwise, so it's okay. If you're playing, you're concentrating. But yes. It's called turmeric, not turmeric. Turmeric. No, I always say turmeric, so that's always how I've said it. Let me look at it. It is turmeric. Turmeric. Did they actually change the pronunciation? I'm gonna look it up now. Turmeric. I've been drinking one called Ontario Ice Wine. Wow. Turmeric. Yeah, it is turmeric. Turmeric. What's the Americans say? Turmeric. 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 Wow, I always say turmeric. Is turmeric a thing? Am I getting things mixed up? No. Ah. Good God. You're right, my whole family. Every single one of us. My grandfather calls it. My grandfather called it, turmeric. Every one of my family has called it turmeric. Oh, good God. What a bloody surprise that was. Turmeric was never a thing. Truly. I've fallen through the world, I tell you. I'll never believe you. No, it's turmeric. I'm just going to call it turmeric, because I can't... At this point, I've been calling it turmeric for the better part of half a century, so I can't really... Well, no. Yeah, better part of half a century. So I can't really change it at this point. It's turmeric. Turmeric can go... fight a kangaroo. That's for sure. Turmeric can, take a dip in crocodile-infested waters for all I care. It's turmeric. Turmeric. Yeah, we always pronounce it. I think everyone calls it turmeric, not tamaruk. Let's see what the internet says. We're going to listen to it together. Let me turn on my desktop audio so you can all hear this. Listen closely. This is what the internet says is the British pronunciation, so usually the Australian pronunciation.
Turmeric.
Turmeric. Turmeric. And the American pronunciation is...
Turmeric.
Turmeric. Turmeric, man. That sounds very Canadian, actually. Turmeric. Eh? Turmeric. About time to get the turmeric. About time to get the turmeric.
Turmeric. Turmeric. Turmeric.
Turmeric. Ugh. It's turmeric. Take that. I actually haven't opened this packet of turmeric stuff, so I don't know what it smells like. The Buddha's tears smells very... very much like the jasmine. It's the jasmine floral scent, but... Oh, I also picked up a box of... It's in a little tin. But I also picked up a box of assorted green teas. Green teas is my current joy, because black tea is nice, but there aren't many. There are some very nice black teas. New York Breakfast is a good one. But there's a lot of good green teas. There's Gorgeous Geisha. They have very fun names. They have a lot of fun over at T2 making the names for things, but Gorgeous Geisha is a very good one. It's green tea and strawberries, I believe. About time to get the turmeric, mate. Turmeric, mate. Does sound like that, doesn't it? About time. About time to get it. And then Green Rose is probably a favourite of mine. Because Green Rose is quite weird. Look at this one. Green tea, papaya, sunflower oil, mango, citric acid, and cornflower petals. Wild. Then we have gunpowder green, which I haven't had in a very long time. Jade Mountain is a nice one. It's like a matcha, like a green tea and roasted rice, I think. Gen matcha, there it is. With some hazelnut parts, hazelnut brittles, coconut husks, sweet blackberry leaves, roasted chicory root, almonds, carob fruit, natural and artificial flavouring. Ooh, natural and artificial flavouring. Isn't that fun? Of course they have natural and artificial flavouring. There's no way they'd make their teas taste like this without it. It's a bit of a shame, though. But they're an Australian company, so what can we do? Yes, Jade Mountain. Japanese GMC. Japanese Sencha. Milky Oolong. Oolong Fresh. And white cocoa. White cocoa. Not just white cocoa. White cocoa. Like a Scotsman. Scotsman who's fallen into one of those chocolate fountains. That's a white cocoa. That's a terrible joke. Hope there are no Scotsmen listening to this. Speaking of Scotsmen, actually. I could do a tea reviewing stream. I wonder how I do a reviewing stream. I've always been thinking of doing that for, like, the alcohols and stuff like that, but how would I do that? You know, one of my nephews suggested an idea for a stream, actually. That came to... It was an alcohol-based stream, but it could work with anything. But it's like, you know, limit it to an hour and a half, or maybe 2 hours, just a simple thing, and limit yourself to a certain amount of stuff. Maybe in this case, you could limit to trying a certain amount of alcohols, or in this, trying a certain amount of teas. You know, doing a side-by-side of a heap of teas. Side-by-side comparison of a heap of teas. Or in his original idea, picking, you know, one alcohol. Like a terrible alcohol like Vok or something like that. And trying to make Vok nice in a cocktail. This website streaming used to be a tea list. You could do that. That's true. I didn't think about that tier list sort of thing. I've seen them around, haven't I? Does your nephew drink his tea as much as you? I think I'm the one who drinks the most tea. I have a niece who likes a lot of teas, but then she also likes a lot of alcohol. We get along. But no, that nephew doesn't drink as much tea. He was more suggesting it for the alcohol, actually. Drink tier list when? Don't know. Perhaps I should do it on my, my anniversary that's coming up. My year anniversary that's coming up next month. It's just over a month from now, because I think it's on the 28th was my first stream. So, yes, I could do something like that. It would be interesting. Try and practice that sort of reviewer language, you know? I just gotta... Wow, that was weird. It's such a strong smell. It wasn't from the tea, it was from something else, but... I could stand to do a lot of this thing. You know, I really wish I'd picked up one of them bloody tea advent calendars that T2 does every year. They do a tea advent calendar, and it's really good for... I didn't get one this year because they didn't change it as much, but I forgot I could use it for Scream. Silly me. I could have done a tea advent, then I would have 25 or 24 teas to review. Look at that. That would have been great. My heart would be beating so fast I'd probably die of a heart attack because of all the caffeine. Or maybe it would go down because there are some teas for sleeping, like tummy tea and sleep tight, which is the name of a tea for T2. Goodness. But yes, the tier list thing is an interesting idea. I'll put that on the back burner. But there was also another idea of an more alcohol-based cocktail stream where you take a terrible alcohol and you try and make it taste alright. So something just horrid. Something that everyone hates, sort of thing. So Vok. It's mid-mean to Vok. I don't know if everyone hates Vok. But it's certainly not very good. Vok. It's not got bad ratings, I suppose. But it's just not very good alcohol, I suppose. Or maybe I should find one of those really awful dry whites that aren't real wine. Just get goon and try and make it taste good. The idea is to try and make it taste good. To make a cocktail that brings out the best of it. You know? It's an interesting concept. It requires me to have a bit more knowledge about cocktail making, though, so I don't think I'm quite skilled enough yet to do it. It is a very recent thing. Yes. Silver needles. White leaf tea. I wish I could shop by the rare teas. True filters. There's one called Decontester. Let me copy that and put that into... I don't know how to pronounce that word. I was very confused by it. It's tea. Someone's probably made a cocktail using goon by now. Somebody has. Almost certainly. Technically, I've used a goon in a cocktail before in the New York sour. So with pepper, ginger, lemon, and other spices. So it's like a decongester tea. That's very good. That's very good, actually. Price descending. There we are. Gyokuro loose leaf tea from T2 is the other one. Then you've got Ding Dong Oolong. It's supposed to help someone with upset stomachs, I see. Wow, what a name! Ding Dong Oolong and certified 100% organic matcha. Ooh, fancy. The cheapest of the expensive teas. Yes, there you go. Ding Dong Oolong. That's... For some reason, I feel like that's got to be some sort of racist, right? They have a lot of digestive teas, actually. I almost picked up one, actually. That was a digestive tea of a kind. I forgot what it was called. Supposed to dumb you down or knock you out. Ah, I see. Apparently licorice legs is a gut health tea, but you've got tummy tea. Detox, which is just called detox. Spy Shy. The belly blend. There you go, T2's got the belly blend. Oh, excuse me. Oh, goodness. Keep yawning. I wonder how their certified 100% matcha is. So to dumb you down and knock you out. There's a lot of things, actually, that they have a lot of sleep teas. Here's a sleep tea. Nighty Night, The Dreamer, Super Latte, Sweetest Dreams, Sleep Tight, Red and Dreamy, Red, Green and Dreamy, Red, Green and Dreamy. That's a great name. I like that one. That are all supposed to help you with sleep, like a chamomile. Chamomile actually does help me relax a bit. It's just something about the smell of it. And I associate it with sleep, actually. Probably helps better. Stress relief. Oh, apparently the Buddha's tea, loose leaf tea, is supposed to be for stress relief. There's a tea called the Glow Getter. Crazy Good Cocoa. But yes, there is a lot of teas. Oh, there's a tea called Bondi. It's all like wrestler names than tea leaves. You're actually quite... Gone Surfing. Oh, that's a great name for a tea. Decon tea. It's made with cadmium, clove, jasmine, ginger, licorice root, licorice elm, mullein, sage. Wow, they just went... Oh, eucalyptus leaf. Wonderful. Decongest tea. Excuse me. Goodness. Oh, that was a high-pitched one. Goodness. That was not nearly as deep as I'd hoped. Suddenly sounded like my sister's dog sneezing just then. Oh, goodness. That makes my nose... Oh, it's probably that bloody person mowing his lawn. I see. Wow, that is... I always find it funny how much licorice... eucalyptus leaf is used in American things. I'm always amused to find out about Americans growing eucalyptus trees. But yes, eucalyptus, they genuinely went with everything that's there to decongest your nose and sinuses and your stomach and make you sleep, and just went, we're going to put it all in one. We're all going to put it in one blend. You know, everything that's supposed to detox, decongest your nose, mouth and eyes, and stomach, and put you to sleep, we're going to put it in one tea, because that's how that works. What do you want in it? Yes. Which ones? But goodness, that is a... Reduce mucous membrane inflammation, open up sinuses and chest, soothe the sore throat, and boost immune system. I have used eucalyptus to get nose, like unblock a nose, actually. Because, good God, eucalyptus. Just get some eucalyptus extract, open the bottle, and just take a big... You laugh, but it works when you're clogged up. Well, I'd hope it does. It's practically the nuclear weapon of decongesting teas. You have a sniffle and you destroy it with utmost punitiveness. What is the word I'm looking for? That's not punitive, I've forgotten the phrase I'm looking for. That's very annoying. Ah, it's on the tip of my bloody tongue. Maybe I should take some of the tea and decongest it, come out of my head. But yes, it practically seems to be the nuclear weapon. Decongest teas. I'd hope it does help. Because good bloody god. Right? Which is the one with the tri-coloured bark? That depends. There's a lot of strangely coloured. There's a lot of eucalyptus trees. It probably is one of the eucalyptuses. It's probably just called something basic, like rainbow eucalyptus or something. Oh, there's something on the National Geographic. Do they have what the name is? Oh. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze again. It's a Filipino tree, actually. Yeah. But there's a lot of strange trees. My personal favourite, I couldn't say I know exactly. A lot of eucalyptus trees do have at least two colours in their bark. They have the white and the brown. But what am I looking for? The sap tree. Australia. There's a tree in Australia, I believe. It is called the desert bloodwood. Murmurpa. Murmurpa, I think. Murmurpa. It's one of the tallest trees. The bloodwood gets its name from its deep, stunning red black sap that appears to be bleeding. The rainbow eucalyptus. I believe that's a Filipino tree, not an Australian tree. Because remember, they're quite close. Eucalyptuses aren't only in Australia, but a fair bit are. Let me pull up this blood tree. I think I got the image of it. Check this bloody thing out. Ooh, I feel like I'm going to get banned on YouTube for showing this. Yes, look at it. It bleeds! I should probably get a better photo than that. The desert bloodwood. Very fun. The desert bloodwood sounds like some sort of very... like somebody's gotten all the way to the end of their D&D game and they're like, I really need to find new names for this. And so they make up the desert bloodwood. Oh, the desert bloodwood, yes. That's the new thing. Oh, that's a tiny image. A bigger image than that, come on. I need to show these people the bleedingness of the tree. There we are. Look at it. Look at this bloody thing. It's a bloody tree. Australians' favourite tree. Indeed, it's a bloody tree. I should have said that. How did I not notice that? How'd that get past me? Goodness, Tiberian, I'm getting slow. But yes, there's a very interesting one. There's another one. The ironbark also has a very red bloody tree, yes. It's a bloody tree, mate. You'd never believe what I saw. I saw a bloody tree. And that bloody tree, bloody fell on my bloody car. And left me with a bloody nose. Guess he wanted some friends in his bloodiness, eh? Oh, you know, right. The inspiration for the tree in the RuneScape. Indeed, it must have been, I assume. Bark tree. The Man from Ironbark is a good poem. Very funny. Good old ironbark. Very interesting, the ironbark. A big old tough bastard, the ironbark is. Not quite the blood tree, but you can't have everything in life. Yes, what is it? The murmurpa. I'm not very good, I've never been very good at pronouncing the indigenous names for these trees, but there is an indigenous name for all of these trees. Would you look at that, a bloody tree? Usually I see these things in horror media. Yes. In fact, when I was playing the Blair Witch Project, I think I made a joke about this tree. Oh, goodness. I'm going to even get myself some... Oh, my nose is very sniffly. I'm going to need to get some tissues. I don't have any around here. But yes, I think I made a joke about this bloody thing. And, the Scream, yeah, the Blair Witch Scream, where you had that black sappy tree, and I mentioned there was a tree with blood sap. But, homework time. Might not be able to come back to the stream, so see ya. Oh, it's been good that you came, Andy Bandy. You work hard on your homework, study hard, so that you too, one day, can sit and play video games as an old man. But I'm going to run off for a moment. I'll be back in a moment to grab some things to help with my stiffly nose. Maybe I should go find some eucalyptus extract. Clear my nose with it. Bastard. Ugh. I just realized this was an incredibly ominous thing for anyone coming into the stream. I'm gone. There's nothing there except a tree with blood-red sap and rough bark. And, well, our dear fellow up here. Goodness. Left it quite ominously, didn't I? Well, I've got my thing, so you'll get it. I mean, it makes sense when you live in a country where everything tries to kill you, that would be a tree that bleeds. Yes, it does sort of make sense, doesn't it? Oh. But it's very interesting, that. I forget this stuff is different until I talk to a few American friends, and then they were always quite surprised by the strangeness of the flora and fauna that turns up in these sort of oceanian places. Only that plant that makes you want to die even if you touch it. The tree bleeding and the mug smiling. Ooh. Oh, bastard. I really hate that, man. I'm gonna have to... Maybe I should close the window, turn on the anti-allergy thing on my air conditioning. Oh, goodness. Goodness gracious me. Let me do that, shall we? That's probably a good idea. That's an interesting name, but I am, unfortunately, not going to say out loud. And unfortunately, you will not find your father here, little one. I do not know your history with him, but I am a lifelong bachelor, and I have always observed proper etiquette when spending time intimately with anyone, so I am very much doubting that I have a secret child hidden somewhere in the world. So, yep. Thank you, Tiberian. And sorry, Squirtle. I should probably make some rules about that sort of thing. It's the Gimpy Gimpy plant. Ah, yes. The old Gimpy Gimpy, eh? Almost actually fell into one of those once. It was very close. I was doing a hike through one of the, because the Gimpy Gimpy's actually up where I am, I believe, or just a bit more north than I am. Or it actually might be a Gimpy Gimpy. Gimpy is a name. That's the name of a town in Australia as well. Good old Gimpy. If I remember correctly. Yes. Northern New South Wales to Cape York Peninsula. Yes, so it's I'm living right smack in the middle of it, actually. But yes, I'm in a lot of the subtropical rainforests and in the rainforests, and it was quite terrifying, actually. I was walking through the rainforest with, I was volunteering to help out with a camp, I think, a school camp, the school that, one of my nieces and nephews went to. See, I had access to a bus, and also, I knew the area, so I was, going around, and I was talking to the kids and all that stuff. Oh, there's that plant, that's that plant. We're doing a biology camp or something like that. Old Eric and little old Eric in another part of the world. Indeed. But yes, it was quite a terrifying thing, because I was older at the time. I was still a young man, and so it was back when I was still involved a bit more with the church, and this was a private school, and they wanted more Christian people. I was never very Christian, let's be honest. But, my parents were high standing in the community, and I needed something to do for the time. So I helped without this Christian school's biology camp. And I went over to this forest. I actually got a spider crawl out of my jacket in this same camp. Very interesting. I got a bloody tick as well. Oh, goodness. Very exciting camp, actually. And we're going through the forest, and, we're commenting on different plans. The biology teacher was like, oh, look at all this. Oh, look at all this. Look at all this. Oh, look at all this. And then one of the kids went up to a plant, and the biology teacher was like, oh, whoa, 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 don't touch that plant, mate. That's the gimpy gimpy. You don't want to touch that. Don't ever touch that plant, alright? Everyone look at this plant, you see it? Never touch it. If you touch it, you will suffer the worst pain in your life. And, they, of course, almost touched it, but the worst part was, and, they made the warning. They were very sullen about the warning, so I kept an eye on it. We went down the path, we had a fun time, we chatted to all of them, but I could see some kids, some evil plot was brewing in their head. And I felt quite heroic. This is actually a very heroic story. So we went around and it was like, oh, it was all beautiful. Oh, the nature was calling, the birds were singing. But as we came back past the plant, one of the kids, and I was keeping an eye on them because there were a couple of larrikins, you see. They were the disruptive ones of the class, I suppose. And these little larrikins pushed, as they walked past the plant. It was off the path a fair bit, down a bit of a hill. They went to touch one of the leaves, and we'd kicked the leaves off the path so they wouldn't be accidentally touched. Because even if the leaves are dead on the ground, they can still get you. And, yeah, so one of them, as you probably have expected, tried to push his friend toward the plant, just as a little shove to scare him, As kids do, they don't really understand the danger of what they're doing. And, luckily I was nearby. The kid did happen to lose, he pushed him a bit harder than he expected, and he actually started to almost tumble down the hill. It's one of those things where he was teetering on the edge. It was quite frightening, actually, and it was one of those moments where you felt like a bloody superhero. Faster than the speeding bullet, I was up there, grabbed the kid, and pulled him back. Problem is, I almost lost my balance. And almost fell into the plant myself. It was a bit of a moment where I pulled him suddenly and almost lost my balance on some loose rocks on the edge of the path myself and fell into the plant. So it was terrifying. You will get the worst pain in your life. Touches tree. She said something really mean. Ends up crying in the forest. Oh, if I wish it was that. I wish it was emotional damage sometimes. But I almost fell into myself. I'm not very good at telling this story. Because it didn't really strike me at how close I was myself to falling until afterwards, because I leaped over in a great rate of knots, faster than a speeding bloody bullet, and pulled him back. Then the rock moved under me, and I almost went down myself. And in fact, just a moment later, the teacher came up to me and commented, because I went down onto one knee to stop myself from falling. My foot went off the edge of the path, and I came down. Hit my hand into the ground, and fortunately, I'd missed everything. But, we knocked quite a few of the leaves off the path, but, by the time it came back, there was another leaf on the path. It was quite tall, this gimpy plant. And, turns out that I hadn't noticed this, but the biology teacher pointed afterwards that my hand was about 10 centimeters. My hand that I used to stabilize myself was about 10 centimeters from one of the fallen leaves. Grey, dead, you couldn't see it in the dirt. So it was a good chance I would have had a hand that could always hurt when the weather changed or I went out for a hot shower. Because that's what it does. It's quite interesting. It's frightening. So, whoa. Almost got me, mate. And, oof, yeah, it was close. Close shave, but I didn't notice until afterwards. He said, yeah, but I didn't want to scare you at the time, but you were right next to one of the plants there. But you managed to get it without touching it. So... But it was one of the side paths. See, it wasn't a well-used path. They usually get rid of the gimpy near the well-used paths of those kind of forest trails, because there was a story about a cop who wiped himself. You can guess what they're all. I do remember that one. That's one of the very big legends that are around it, isn't it? Yes, the poor old... Good God. Oh, I'm glad I've never touched it. And most people are quite... It's not that common to actually... come into contact with, so most don't actually have touched it. I don't think I've met a person who has. Well, I might have, but they don't mention it, at least. Excuse me. I'm gonna blow my nose. Allergies ASMR. Join me for the allergies bloody experience. Yeah, it's not quite hay fever yet, but oh, good God. Well, yes, Gimpys. Fun little things, eh? Such a non-insidious name. But yes. Anyone actually here, like, I know most of you are American, but anyone here actually travelled to the good old world of Australia? Coming down under? Anyone actually travelled over here? To Sydney or something? It's a bit out of the way. Most probably wouldn't, right? I know Tiberian, you don't travel much, but I realise there are other people here, so... Anyone else travelled to the good old land of Australia? It's funny. Australians travel a lot of other places, and... I feel like it's been years since I've seen somebody travel here, but... I've known Canadians and Americans and Russians all travelled to Australia for one reason or another. Shockingly common place to come for work, actually. Destination country, as they say. Because, yes, travel's an interesting thing. I'd like to be heading to Bali next July. Ooh, wow, Bali. I remember a few years ago. These days it's Japan, actually, that Australians like going to. I've only been out of Florida once in my life. Yes, you mentioned that back when we first talked, I think. Excuse me. That was a big one. Come on, you bloody air conditioning. Fix my allergies. That's what I got you for. Get that allergy blaster thing. Ugh. But yes, Bali, eh? It's where all the Australians went for years. All the kids going on schoolies from about 2000 to about 2015. Everyone went to bloody Bali. I think they still go to Bali. Beer's cheap. Alcohol's incredibly cheap. Drugs, quite easy to get as long as you don't get caught with it. Never get caught with drugs in Bali. Some pretty high-profile cases of that happening. It's not a good time. But yeah, nice country, that. Quite cheap to get there, quite nice. Well, it's cheap for Australians, at least. Maybe not for you, but... It's cheap for over here, considering it's just a hop, skip, and a jump. Practically. So close you could probably throw a rock at it. Stone's throw away. Nice place, though. And there's some nice places if you just stay away from... You can go... If you like a bit more nature and natural stuff, I think in Bali there's some really beautiful places you can find just outside the main tourist areas. You'd have to look it up. I can't quite remember where, but there are some really nice places if you aren't just there to party. So go a bit off the beaten track. And I'm meaning beaten in the most literal term, because most of the beaten tracks are also full of people who are beaten up because they've drunk too much. The beaten track. Full of drunkards. 974 to 2k, depending on when you go. Goodness. That is certainly far more expensive than it is here in Australia. Frankly, I think it's just as expensive for me to travel to bloody Perth, which is a city in Australia, as to travel to Bali. Which is why no one ever goes to Perth or Broome. That's why Western Australia thinks they can lock themselves off of the rest of the country and nothing will happen. So let's be honest, nothing will. Bloody Western Australians. Living in their own little world in the west of Australia. No, but I have an acquaintance in Australia. I have an acquaintance in America. And a close friend of mine's family lives in America. He's originally Russian, but his mother was American. His father came over when all the Russians were escaping from various ex-Soviet states. So, interesting story, his life. Travelled a bit, lived in America for a while, came to Australia, and then met me. And we've known each other for decades at this point. But yeah, his acquaintance is an interesting thing. Reminds me of my father once. He travelled a lot when he was younger. And he would meet people who'd say, oh, if you find yourself in another country again, which was much more common back then, you should come by and call. Come by us, we'll give you a place to stay while you stay in America or something like that. And I don't think they actually expected him to take them up on their offer. They were very surprised when he appeared one day. Well, they weren't surprised, he did warn them, but they did put him up in the end, but it was very interesting to think about. That sort of acquaintances travel. Bit of unrelated, I suppose, but I'm hoping actually to jump over to have a gander with my nephew actually sometime this year. Both my nephews. I have two nephews that want to go to Japan, and I want to as well, and I'm still fit as a fiddle. Hopefully, by the time I get there, and so once the country opens up, I'm hoping to go over for an extended period of time, and unless I pick up a laptop that can stream at the same time, that's something this year that might not be so easy to stream during, but so that'll be. I'll have another nice stories when I come back, but I think it would be extended 3 weeks to a month, 3 weeks to 4 weeks probably a full month is what we're planning to do. It's part of the reason why one of my nephews is so desperate to get a job. He wants to make sure he has enough savings for it. Depends where you go in the States. Florida's odd though, no difference. No offense, friend. Goodness. Oh, the Floridian, eh? Floridian sounds like some sort of... like meridian. It sounds like some sort of, pseudo-scientific spiritualism thing. Like, I pull power from the Floridian and these sort of meditations. I must get a new keyboard. Goodness. Is the keyboard so sticky it's pulling all the other keys out, eh? Or is for visiting, not for staying. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Good God, is it that time already? Yes. Speaking of travelling, actually, let me go grab this. There it is. Ah, there's a bottle. I will admit, I was defeated by in-game advertising. There is a reason why I thought it is true. Do you know how... yeah, I don't know if you remember, but on Sunday, I mentioned how we talked about the market that the whiskies, or the whiskey companies, and Yakuza were, they knew their market. And it's true, they did. Have you actually got any of your prepared subjects yet? Yes! Let me look at the list. Give me a moment, I'll freeze for a moment. Let me check what I mean. I talked about widening. I talked about the future stream, I've done a bit of talking about the first anniversary, but I'm about to move on to the next subject. That's what I was about to move on to. I was actually very curious about it. You know how I mentioned that every time I saw a certain bottle of alcohol in Yakuza 0, I was tempted to buy it? But that's not just because of Yakuza. It's because I started being assaulted by this bottle everywhere. I saw it being used in the making of a cocktail I wanted to make, and then I saw it in store for, you know, not so reasonable price, and then I found it online for a much more reasonable price. And then I kept seeing it in Yakuza for a reasonable price. And well, my friends, they bloody got me. Those bloody fellows in Yakuza, they knew their market. Because, mate, let me tell you, they got me with their advertising, they did. Just let me get the bottle. Why can't I... Oh, how'd that get down there? Where is it? I think I saved the photos somewhere, it's alright. Yeah, so this will be moving to the next prepared subject. Not handed out this prepared subject, but let me... That one you're not gonna... No, it's not a counterfeit. I have the bottle here. It wasn't... It was reasonable, meaning it wasn't, you know, $110. It was, you know, still $90. It was still a pricey bit of alcohol. It was a sale on a company that I do trust. I have bought from them before. I bought the tasting kit, the Kinobi tea tasting kit from them, I believe. Let me find the picture. Where the bloody hell did I put this picture? I am very annoyed where I've put... Here it is. It'll be in the scenes, right? No, it's not. Wait, the bloody thing. I got a PNG of this thing today. I have no idea where I put it. The hell are you, blasted bottle? Embarrassing that I've lost a picture of a bottle. Actually, I should be able to find it. Never mind. Stupid. I should be able to find it in the download, shouldn't I? Because I downloaded it. Yes, that's it. Where did I put you? Ah, that's why I can't do it. It's not a real picture. It's one of those web things. Oh no, it's in my thumbnails. That's why I couldn't find it. It's in the thumbnails folder. How did it get there? Give me a moment. Sorry about this. I lost a picture of a bottle. There it is. Will it work? Yes, it will. Here it is. Lafroig. The smoky whiskey that turns up in Yakuza. Lafroig 10. And the one I kept saying I really love the word of. I believe in store it's about $100, and I got it for about... I think I got it for about $85 for an online order. Because it actually was an online offer. I couldn't buy it in store for that cheap, but I could order it that cheap. Dropped down from about $100. Where is it made? It's made in Islay. It's an Islay Scotch. A Scotch I've been curious about for a while. There's a few brands. This is the most affordable of the three major brands of it. You have Lafroig, you have Lagenvoolen, or something like that. Lagenvoolen 16, and Ardbeg. This is the one that turned up the most, and, you know, it's the one that the advertising was about, so it worked on me. It also was the middle of the road in the price. It wasn't too cheap, wasn't too expensive. Islay is Scottish Islands, west of Scotland. Islay is the Isle of Islay. And there's a fair few Islay Scotches, considering it's a tiny island. And Lafroig is the one I've grabbed. most richly flavoured of all the Scotch whiskies, as it calls itself. It's from the remote island of Islay, in the Western Isles of Scotland. Lefroy is a Gaelic word that means the beautiful hollow by the broad day. Very nice, isn't it? But I got by advertising, frankly. I can't believe Yakuza and all the advertising teamed up. Well, actually, I can't believe Yakuza did that to me. Can't believe I watched few YouTube videos that used Lefroy in its creation, and then it kept turning up in Yakuza. Oh, goodness. But I don't regret it, actually. I really... Still pricey. Yes, it's a bit of a pricey one, isn't it? Which is something I'll get onto, and I had an interesting thought a few days ago, after I bought this tea, because actually, this bottle that I've got, I'm keeping it in the house with all my other bottles, but, my nephew, who visits quite often, actually split the bottle with me. He decided he wanted part of it when I said I would order it. He said, oh yeah, I'll give you half the price of it, so, because I want some too. I want to declare the bottle half mine. And I was like, alright. So we split the bottle. Yep, you're too cheap to buy the AC. You know. ACs don't taste nice, and I've lived most of my life without an AC. So, mate. But I haven't lived most of my life without this. It's about priorities, mate. I know I can survive without an AC, but, you know, this is a unique flavor. And I grabbed it. No, I really didn't. Most of my life, I just was drinking alcohol that came to me. I really didn't spend all that much time thinking about alcohol. But this whole cocktail thing has really made me really think about alcohol in a different way. You know, I've gone from just being a person who consumed to be a person who likes to learn. And so I decided to try a lot of things. This was the smoky one that was not quite double black by Johnny Walker, but not quite Ardbeg or Lagavulin. And goodness gracious, I think and all of my family, I talked to my niece about this actually, and she says, yes, those smoky whiskies, the niece I talk that drinks a lot, we never really talked about drinking before. This is very strange actually. So much information comes out on these things. We've talked about it before, but I didn't remember until I made the connection myself. But she mentioned yes. And we both made and the nephew that tried it with me, I think we're all just weak to these sort of scotches. They're very smoky, very peaty and smoky. And by smoky, I mean it. It's practically smells like a... Yeah, listen to that. Boop. You know the smell of a smokehouse, where you smoke meats? It's a very similar smell. That's how smoky this whiskey is. And Islay Scotches are known for being smoky. The kind of smell is so smoky, I can almost smell the smoked meat. It almost smells like smoked meat. It's amazing. But it smells smoky and has this hint of saltiness to it. Like a sea breeze. It's this beautiful, rich smell. And I think our family in particular is very weak to this. I call this bottle, and probably all the other types, this Islay Scotch whiskey, single malt Scotch whiskey, these smoky whiskies, I'm going to call them liquid memories, because they are liquid nostalgia, frankly, for me. That smell, that taste. Because they taste like they smell, but you'd think that would taste bad. Smoke. That smoky peatiness. But it doesn't. It tastes wonderful. It is dash a bit of water in it, and just such a fragrance, such a strong fragrance and smell. And it's liquid memories for our family, because we always used to have for decades, and I've only missed it the last few years, but almost all my life we travelled to a secluded beach in North Queensland with a little small community next to it, where our family there's a lot of them, but this is one that's ours. I'm not going to tell you where it is. There's a secluded beach in Queensland. Very North Queensland, that we used to visit as a family, you see. And we used to do bonfires and hungies and all this sort of stuff all the time there, and so I associate that. And we really didn't have fires much. You don't really need fires that much. And why we needed it there was it was in the middle of winter, and it was quite cold sometimes. And also it's just fun to have a fire on a beach. And so that burning smell, that wood smell, the burning woods, like that burning smoke smell, plus the sort of hint of the saltiness, gives it that smell of burning driftwood. Because the water they use, I believe, is a mineral-rich water that they use in this whiskey on the island. And I imagine it has quite a bit of salt in it. It's not a very big island, and it's in the west. It's west of the Scottish Islands. It's in, that Northern Sea area sort of thing. So it probably is quite salty and windy. And so the mineral water kind of gives it this sort of smell of salt. And it gives that smell of burning driftwood, which is just... It took me back. I smelt it. The moment I opened the bottle and smelt it, I was like... It was a viscerally nostalgic smell for me. And a couple of my nieces, even my sister, came over for a while, and she just went, wow, she just said, it's like the beach. And I said, I know, right? It's like a bonfire on the beach. You were drinking a bonfire on the beach. That slight saltiness, that smell is so strong that I just remember it all. It smells and tastes like a hungy. You know what a hungy is? So you bury a heap of food underground in the sand and cook it. Or in the dirt, too, but... We used to make hungies all the times. It's a Maori method, I believe, traditionally islander. So, I don't know why our family has done it for decades. Since, we've been doing it since the 60s or so. We've been doing hungies. But God, it was this Lefroy stuff. Hungies, never heard of it. But yeah, this Lefroy stuff smells like the beach that the bonfires and the beach we used to have. I'll get to more stories about that actually, but let's talk about hungies for a bit. See, what we did, if I remember correctly, we've done it many times, we would have bonfires most nights, and then one day we'd make a big pit, and and usually in the course of making a cubby house or something like that with the younger nieces and nephews. When they were born, they all loved making cubby houses out of like the driftwood and the like that would come over Conway Beach during cyclone season in the summer and be left there. Sometimes you'd be lucky and find a destroyed boat, or a destroyed fibro boat. You'd be able to build a really nice little cubby house out of it. But yes, we would have a big fire pit. We'd keep it, if the tide was allowing, we'd keep it as close to the ocean as possible, but not too close that the water would rise. Because this beach, along with a lot of the beaches in that sort of area, a lot of them have a very flat beach. Go out to the horizon. Like, when the tide's out, you can't see the tide. It's very interesting. You can actually walk to a few islands. It's so flat. And then when the tide comes in, it comes in fast, but comes in far, too. It's very interesting. But we'd, do it in the right spot. We'd dig a deep pit. We'd start a fire during the day. And while this was happening, the half of the family would be inside, peeling and cutting vegetables and, seasoning the chicken and the beef, and not beef, and the pork and stuff like that. Whatever we decided. Usually went chicken. Chicken is usually what we did. And putting them in foil, and then putting them into these big cast iron pots. Big things. Massive cast iron pots. Old, ancient things. You could kill a man with them. Those pots are older than I am. Frankly, they're probably as old as the turn of the previous century. Still going, though. Tough bastards. And then we'd put them into the ground. We'd cover them a bit of foily stuff. Before we had foil, we had to cover... It's a bit more difficult, but foil is quite a common thing. It's been around for a while. But before we used foil, we just got a lot of sand in our food. The pots were usually pretty good at sealing it out, though. We would seal it with something else. A bit of fabric and stuff. And then the kids would run around collecting pumice, or the younger adults would collect around pumice when the kids were too young to do it. Pumice is a light volcanic stone, incredibly good insulator, because it's so porous, it's got a lot of air in it. Well, at least I think that's what we're using it for insulation. But it also keeps heat very well. So once you heat it up, it stays hot for a while. I'm maybe getting this wrong. But we used pumice. We'd make the fire, we'd let it burn down to coals. there'd be pumice under the coals. And, goodness. I can't remember what it is. Why am I forgetting it all of a sudden? It's been a few years since I've done it, so I've suddenly forgotten how to do it. Essentially, we get pumice, the coals and a thing. We put the pots in, the coals and the pumice. We cover it all in pumice and coals, hot coals. We wrap it in banana leaves. Wrap it all in banana leaves and all that stuff. Put more pumice and coal on top, and then bury it in all the sand. We fill in the hole. And just leave it there for hours. It's like a weird slow cook. The banana leaves are very important. I've forgotten why, but we do it, and it's very important. And so we put all the raw meats and stuff, and we sit it there, and it's like a very strange, slow-cooked meal. Sits there for 6 or 7 hours. We unbury the stuff. It has this beautiful warmth to it, too. Because it's winter, we love it. Because we can sit with our feet on this warm sand. This hot sand. Keep our feet warm from the quite sheer cold winds. They cook food wrapped in banana leaves in Mexico. Yes, we wrap the whole thing in banana leaves, actually. Yes, and you don't need anything for it. There's no electricity involved. It's only the good old flame, mate. It's probably the most survivalist food I've ever made. Except for bush tucker, I suppose. But yes. And it's the smell of that sort of thing that reminds me of the Lafroig, that the Lafroig reminds me of. Ah, such a fun word too, Lafroig. But yes, those hungies are great. I still think it's some of the best food I've ever eaten, is those hungy foods. There's just something about it. I can see... It's a shame, because it's the only sort of community I ever felt like I had in my life. It's very dramatic. But because I moved so often in my youth, and quite often in my adult life, I never built up a sort of community like that. It's something that I've always sort of wanted. Goodness. Got surprised. Somebody came out to the letterbox and knocked on the door, but they've just left the package there. Oh dear, that's friendly. This slow cooking sounds like barbecue. It's very interesting. And it gives this sort of feeling of community that, you know, I really miss. Because it was so big because there were so many of us. There was, 30 of us sometimes. That, we had to cook so much. And so it was a very big community effort with the whole family and the extended family and the cousins and the family friends all helped with it. We dug the hole, made the food, we stuck it in the hole, we sat around the fire at the end of it after unburying it and starting another fire on top of it, and we'd all sit around the big bonfire on the beach serving it. Oh, it was good. Man, I miss it. I really have to go up there this year. I don't know how many people will be able to make it this year, though, but... goodness. Certainly miss it, mate. Certainly miss it. Mate. The old beach house actually got blown down in a cyclone. That thing lasted for years, too. You're lucky my postman never knocks when he gets a parcel. I got stolen last week because of it. Yes. I'm quite lucky, yes. A lot of postmen knock. I should have probably asked him, yelled out the window to put him hide it under the chair, but packages rarely ever get stolen in this place, and my fence is quite high and large, so it's hard to see the packages. They come right up to my door, and I have a pretty good fence, so it should be pretty hard to see the package. But yes. That'll probably be that. Excuse me. But yes, goodness, hungies were a great memory. And this bottle is liquid nostalgia about the smell of the bonfire that I associate with that honey. That honey. There it is. It's very hard to open the bottle. It's also a great way to end a night, I've found. The last drink of the night, just a little dash of this with a bit of water. And it has a very long, what's it called? Very long, taste. Over the below of the apartment building, so anyone can see my doorstep. Oh dear. That is not very good. It has a very long, forgotten the proper technical term for it. It gives it a long taste, so it stays in your mouth a long time. And really, it's true, this drink is so smoky, I feel like I'm breathing out smoke when I drink it. You put it in your mouth, you kind of savor it a bit, and a drink that reminds you of simpler times is always nice. Yes, I suppose that's what it is. And I think that's why my family in general, because everyone in my family has that same memory. Because we did it for so long. And only recently did it fall down, mostly because the house was blown down in a cyclone, and then when the house was rebuilt, the house we always used to stay in, the aftertaste. Yeah, it's a long aftertaste, but whiskey drinkers have a very particular word for it. A very particular term for it, and I've forgotten what it is. Yes, a hint of seaweed, as they say. Which is a good way of describing it. It has a very long... goodness, somebody described it. But yes, it has a long aftertaste. When you put it in your mouth and you smell it through your nose, because you can smell it coming out of your nose. It's that strong. Kind of... because it's an alcohol, it quite aerosolizes quite easily. A strong alcohol, it sits at 40%. It's an 80 proof. And so... you breathe it in, you breathe it out, and then you drink it down, it kind of explodes with flavor, and you can taste the smoke. The kind of beautiful smoky scent. Long after you've finished drinking it. And why I remembered it, actually, during this stream is because it was one of my subjects as well, but, I felt like I burped, and I could taste the one I had last night. It was still there. But it may be because I haven't actually taken the glass out of this office. I was finishing up some stuff last night while making I was making the thumbnail last night and setting up the stream. And I left the cup in the office on my desk, and so I think I'm smelling that. Finish. I think it might be finish, a long finish. That sounds right. Yes. Long warming finish, yes. Finish, you're right. I can't believe I forgot that. Ah, look at that. Oh, it's only £230 for a pack of 6. Over in good old England. I suppose it would be a lot cheaper in England. You could say the drink is like smoke on the water. And fire in the sky. Bum, bum, ba, da, 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 da. Oh, the funny thing with this, actually, it came with Lafroig, Isla Scotch Whiskey. Your password to Isla. Your passport to Isla. Claim your free square foot of land on our island. From the storm-lashed island from the west coast comes a whiskey that's rich with character, as is the people themselves. Its distinctive peat smoke-infused flavour has been a dividing opinion since 1815. It's quite an old one. So yes. It and its bitter rival, Lagavulin, are only a mile from each other on this island. So they're all very close to each other and they're competitors. It's very funny. But apparently, I can acquire myself a square foot of land on the Isle of Isla. By putting in the code and joining their weird little, club. The, Lafroig Club. It's good advertising, frankly. It did make me and my nephew was sitting there going, goodness, I want to go to Isla. Also, you get a dram of the scotch every year if you come back to the island, which is a spectacular advertising campaign. You can become a friend of Lafroig, not LaCroix. You'll be given a lifetime lease on a numbered plot of land that runs alongside our important water source, the Kilbride Stream. If you refuse, you can view your plot, and crucially, you can claim your ground rent of a dram of Lafroig. Dram is like a shot or two of Lafroig. It's a very small amount. But yes, there you go. And for every bottle I get, I can claim another dram. Thought the hot smoky flavour from the barrel it's aged in. No! It's cooked. It's smoked. It's actually smoked. With peat, like a peat fire. It's actually smoked. It really means smoky whiskey. It's been, yes, malted barley is dried in peat before it's turned into alcohol. So that's where they get it from. It's actually how they prepare the grain before they turn it to alcohol that causes its very strong, smoky flavor. The mineral saltiness, the seaweed flavor they call it, and the iodine flavor probably becomes from the stream that they use. That likely has a lot of minerals from the ocean and saltiness from the ocean. And the smokiness forms together to give it a sort of iodine flavor, which is the one that gets its flavor aged from the barrel. I have forgotten. Well, bourbon needs to be aged in certain barrels, because I believe it's bourbon. There's a lot of whiskeys that get aged in certain barrels, but I'm pretty sure it's bourbon that needs it to be aged in a certain... illegally required in America, I believe. Your rules require bourbon to be a certain amount of corn and also aged in a certain type of barrel. Flavor from barrels. I'm pretty sure that's all whiskeys, though. They all get a bit of flavor, but yes. Yes, bourbon is matured in new oak barrels that have been charred. But to be a bourbon, you need to have 51% corn and be aged in a smoked barrel, like a charred barrel, a new oak charred barrel. Funny thing about the rules, though, I've heard that you don't actually have to age it for that long, so you can actually just tip it through those barrels or pour it into a barrel for about 6 seconds and pour it back out again, and it still counts as bourbon. There are some states in America that say bourbon needs to be more particular, but... rye maybe, but bourbon is the one I remember that needs to be aged in a barrel. But there are other ones that do. Cognac and brandy and stuff like that also get stuff from barrels. There's different types of whiskies that'll claim they've been aged in a certain type of barrel to give it a certain flavour. Probably rye as well. So it's interesting. The barrel is just one of the many processes that whiskey makers can use to sort of add a unique aspect to their particular alcohol, which is why it's shocking. The thing about cocktails is they're not an exact science because... sorry, I'm just smelling the heat of smoke. They're never an exact science because every alcohol is different. Whiskies and spirits are more consistent than wines. Wines are different every year, even if they're the same brand and the same grape. But whiskies can be different amongst themselves. They can be very different. And so, it really takes a discerning tongue, and I've definitely not got it. Except this Lefroy. Though my sister says I should try a bottle of Ardbeg next, but... she may have a bottle at her house. She didn't remember if she had, but... if she does, I might visit her and see if I can't nip a bit of the nip of their Ardbeg, eh? See how it tastes, but... our family's weakness, the nostalgia brought by the smell and the taste of smoke. Particularly salty smoke, of like driftwood. Apparently it has a very strong iodine flavour, and now I think about it, it does remind me a bit, some of the taste and the flavour does remind me of that sort of iodine flavour, but apparently to some, I've read some people and I've talked to some people who find that it reminds me of them of medicine. This particular one, and the Ardbeg as well, remind them of a strong medicine, like a hospital back in the day when they used to use iodine for everything. And hospitals had that iodine clinical smell. You can probably still smell it when you go into a lot of hospitals, but you have it less often these days. But it's true. I can see what they mean, but for me the smokiness is the stronger flavour, and it's the more the emotionally evocative flavour, I suppose. It's very interesting. Goodness, I'm ranting so much I'm starting to get dizzy. I'm not breathing enough. Oh, hello, ants. Some ants have invaded my window, so something sweet must have been there. The Reviga originally saw the Lefroy and its contemporaries, its compatriots, its rivals, its peers, is because I saw a drink called the penicillin. Speaking of medical things, I think I have a picture of it somewhere. I'll change out the bottle of Lafroig for it. For the penicillin. Oh, the picture of the penicillin I have. Nope, that is fried chicken shapes. Not what I was looking for. Did not mean to press that. So I can deal with some fried chicken shapes until I accidentally double-clicked too fast. Let's go with the penicillin with the float. Little frog in the background. There you are. There we are, the penicillin. You thought I would talk about this on stream, but I don't think I'll make this one much. It's a good one, but, you know, maybe later. I don't want to use my Lafroig for a cocktail, but you can see a slight dark line across the top there. That's the Lafroig float, like you float the Lafroig on top. It's made with Scotch, honey syrup, ginger, mulled ginger, so actual whole ginger, and lemon. Why it's called the penicillin was made by a New York bartender because it's all things that... Has anyone had this before when you had a sore throat? Speaking of teas that help you with sore throats. If you've ever had a sore throat, and tea is the same thing, it reminds me of those teas, actually, that are all of it. You know, it has like this, this, and this, and this. You put honey in it, and it's going to be wonderful for a sore throat. When I was younger, my mother, when I had a sore throat, my mother always used to go, I know exactly what you need, mate. And would make this concoction of lemon juice, sherry, actually, honey, and hot water. Now, this is not hot, but it reminded me of that. Ginger was in there, too. So it was ginger, honey, sherry, and hot water, with some salt, a pinch of salt in there. It was a horrid drink. But it did work. It bloody worked. Helped me with my sore. He gargled it. We do a spoonful of honey, yes. It was a drink and a half. But this is the penicillin, sort of based on that idea of healthy drinks. And this has lemon, honey, ginger, high-proof alcohol, and that smokiness, the iodine smokiness, because that sort of charcoal was used in a lot of things as a health thing. A lot of earlier health paste and stuff. It sort of reminds me of the what we called Chinese dirt. It sort of had that smoky smell to it, because it was made with like smoked teas and smoked leaves and sort of like roasted herbal remedies. But that's what the penicillin was based on, hence it was called the penicillin, because it also had a heap of things in it that are all known for their antibacterial properties. High-proof alcohol, honey, lemon, and salt. It doesn't have salt in it, but lemon are all known for their I'm kind of curious, maybe I should throw salt in it next time, actually. Are all known for their antibacterial properties. So, with smokiness, a fire, heat, and smoking things, and got this strange, strong drink. I've had it twice with two different scotches. And the scotch really makes a big difference. The scotch is the most in this, so the scotch really makes a big difference. I had it with a stronger, more grainy scotch. Sounds tasty. It is quite a nice one. The float is very interesting because it really hits you with the smokiness when you have the float on top. You see that? It's quite subtle, actually. You can see a slight difference in colour. That's not a shadow. There's a slight difference in colour along the top there. That is the float of the Lafroig. I mixed it in once as well. I did two, where I mixed one in, didn't mix it in. So I've had three, actually. But I made one for my nephew when he visited. And so he had one with a float, but with his scotch he brought. And it's a much sweeter scotch, so it turned out to be a much sweeter drink. Originally, when I had it, it was with a more solid blend. I'll have to have the drink one more time to actually test that was the reason. I have one more bit of little honey syrup I made up. It's a very interesting drink. It's interesting because I mull ginger. I haven't mulled ginger in a very long time. I also like mine being more gingery, I think. But you cut up fresh ginger, crush it up like some apothecary, shake it up with ice. It's an interesting drink. And I'm going to start using my teas some days. I'll mix my tea habit with my cocktail habit, see if I can make some interesting cocktails with tea. Because I actually have some green tea liqueur and black tea liqueur, actually. But yes, it's very interesting, isn't it? The world of... so deep and wide. the world of alcohol, and the world of tea, actually. But yes, the penicillin. Interesting one, a shaken drink, because it has citrus, but yes, made by a New Yorker. But I would have believed you if you told me it was made by my mother, or in fact my grandfather, who was the one who made the horrid sherry drink to begin with. I think it's because he was, let's be honest, a bit of an alcoholic that liked sherry. Not the most honest reasons, but hey, his concoction worked for my sore throats when I was a young man. As horrid as it tastes. A spoonful of honey. I wish it was a bloody spoonful of honey. It's actually half the reason I never really liked honey as a flavour. It's because of that. I always associate it with being sick, and also having my mouth assaulted by the sweet, salty, alcohol-y, bloody, gingery flavour that was in that tiny concoction they would always give me. You never really didn't have good memories. It was the opposite of nice memories. But the penicillin, because of the smokiness and the sweetness, and these days I can't have honey. I do like honey better, and it doesn't have salt in it. I'm actually quite like the penicillin. It's an interesting drink. I don't want to say it's my favourite. But I just can't not love a drink that has this Lafroig in it. Ah, it's good. And yes, goodness, oh god. Man, turns out these just chatting streams are a lot easier than I thought it would be. I have a lot to talk about. Ugh. I feel sick again. Time for a bit of the old medicine. Speaking of medicine, here's another fun legend about, I believe Wisconsin, actually. About you Americans. A story that came out of Prohibition. Not Butter Bar, Bitters Bar. Yeah, there we are. Nelson's Hall in the Bitters Club in Wisconsin. It's a tiny island in Wisconsin, I believe. Where was it called? Washington Island in Wisconsin. And speaking of medicine, Nelson was a Dutch, I can't remember who he was, but he came to Wisconsin at some point. Off, the peninsula there. I don't know what they call that part of Wisconsin, but it's an island. Off the northeast-ish, northeast part of Wisconsin. And this guy came in and started a bar. And it was a very popular bar for the islanders. He became part of the community, and everyone really loves it. Everyone came in, drank, it was all very wonderful. But during Prohibition, of course, the bar was no longer able to drink alcohol. And this is how I remember the story as it was told to me. Whenever I'm sick, I drink honey, lemon, and ginger tea. Warms you up and tastes good. Yes, well, that's pretty much what this is. Minus the alcohol that you would have in this one. The penicillin, I mean. That's just pretty much close to a penicillin. Oh, my throat is not doing well, is it? Goodness gracious me. But yes. This little islands, the Nelson's Hall, couldn't serve alcohol anymore during Prohibition. But bitters, like Angostura bitters, could be served because could be sold because it was a medicine. So as long as you were a pharmacist, an accredited pharmacist, or had a pharmacy certificate, I'm not too sure the rules, you could sell bitters. And so, well, they couldn't drink alcohol, but they sure as hell could drink bitters. And so, Mr. Nelson went off and got his accreditation as a pharmacist, turned his Nelson's Hall into Nelson's Pharmacy, and would give it out prescriptions for bitters to all the people in the island. And every Friday or every second day or however often they went to the shop, they'd come in for their stomach medicine, they would. They'd be drinking their stomach medicine. Yeah, just need oh, Nelson, give me my stomach's a bit in. They drink the stomach medicine. And everyone on the island that's what they drank. They drank bitters. Oh, hello, little Pee-wee. Oh, the blasted little thing came up to the window. That little peewee that was making all that screeching earlier. I've closed the window glass, but he came right up to me and tapped on the window. Ah, he was trying to get me. He was. But yes, goodness, that was interesting. Let's open the window a bit. See if he gets in. Get a bit closer next time. Yes, they all drank bitters. At one point, the court tried to stop them. There he is. Just on the window right there. And the court tried to stop them, of course. The government tried to stop them. And reportedly, this is all legend and probably a tall tale, but apparently Mr. Nelson got a shot of bitters as they do it. Gotta pick up that, somebody lurking for a while. Fair enough. You go eat some good food. He got his shot of bitters that he was giving to everyone as their stomach medicine. Gave it to the judge. The judge downed it in a single shot, shot at it, and went. And reportedly, he said, if any bastard is crazy enough to drink a shot of bitters like this, then go ahead, drink it. There are people who are crazy enough to drink this, they can. The drink itself is punishment enough. Now, I've not had a shot of bitters, but I did have the Trinidad Sour. And so, I'm curious. One day I should give it a go. A shot of bitters. But yes, it doesn't take many of those to get you drunk, so in the end, Prohibition didn't do very well on this tiny little island. And now these days, it's the Bitters Club. Nelson's Hall's Bitters Club. You can go there, do a shot of bitters, and become a member of the Bitters Club. Apparently you can do and go back there every year, just like the Lefroy guys. It's a very good advertising strategy, isn't it? But it is the highest content. I think they have the highest consumption of bitters in the country. In Wisconsin. It's very interesting. Little interesting story there. Anecdote. But yes, highest consumption of whiskey in the country of America is at this little place. Well, not this little place, but the most of Wisconsin, because it spread from that bar outward. Because people would visit the island, get a taste for it, and drink it elsewhere as well. But yes, interesting, isn't it? The weird things people do in Prohibition. It's also why rye whiskey was known as Canadian whiskey for a long time. Before rye became a thing, because during Prohibition, Canadian whiskey was still being made during Prohibition. And this is what I've learned over time. And Canadian whiskey was mostly made of rye, because rye grew better in colder environments. It's pretty cold up in Canada. And so they used to smuggle it into America, and Americans got a taste of rye during the Prohibition, because it was one of the few whiskeys that was still being made. And they could smuggle it over this border. And then later, after the Prohibition lifted, all Americans started making their own rye whiskies. And Canadian is still sort of seen as a rye whiskey by nature. Though I don't know if it is these days, because rye whiskey is an American legal term of a certain type of whiskey that has 51% rye, and straight rye has 100% rye. Whereas Canada doesn't have those sort of rules, so they don't actually have to call it that. That's why Canadian whiskey is just Canadian whiskey. Fun. The things you know. I'm just teaching you. I'm just rambling about interesting things I know. Yes. Ugh. My nephew actually made an interesting thing when Tiberian mentioned that about money and the amount of money of things cost, especially alcohols. I do make my own wines. Oh, do you? Well, that's very fun. I've always wanted to make my own whiskey, but I'm worried that I'm so old at this point, if I try and make one and age it for an appropriate amount of time, I'll just die before it happens. Mostly honey wine and apple wines. Oh, very nice. I've been making an allspice dram, actually. It's a type of rum liqueur. I haven't been making it from scratch. I'm using rum to make it, but I got allspice, and I'm kind of making a sweetened liqueur that is used for some drinks. And I'm making it myself. It takes 2 weeks. The bloody thing is sitting on my shelf constantly. You should see my shelf too. It's ridiculous. It's the shelf that has all my, top of the cabinet that has all my alcohol on it. But yes, making this allspice dram as well. It's the thing I've been making recently. I make a lot of my own syrups and orgeat and such like that. A lot of it's alcoholic. The orgeat has brandy in it. This one has white rum in it. And it took me ages to find. I had to order bloody allspice fruits, whole allspice from bloody Amazon, because I can't find it anywhere. Ooh, shiver up my spine, sorry. Ooh. Anyone else get those shivers up their spine? I get terrible shivers up my spine. Ugh. My whole body shivers. Ugh. But yes, the Au Jus and the allspice dram, otherwise known as pimento dram, I think, is, yeah, a sort of Caribbean-based thing. Uses allspice, whole allspice, crushed up in a mortar and pestle, then aged, essentially, seeped in white rum for 2 weeks, with a cinnamon stick added halfway through that time, and then seeped in like a syrup for a while, and then you have your allspice dram. And I'll be curious how this tastes. And I think I'd order, before I finish this allspice dram, I'm kind of tempted to order one offline and see the difference, you know, between the allspice dram I made and the allspice dram on the market, you know. Kind of curious with the Au Jus as well that I've made, and one of them. Mine's definitely much more. It's got a lot of solids in it, my Au Jus. It probably has too much solids in it. I didn't strain it very well. I like its texture though. Gives it a thicker texture. But yes. How do you do with the honey wines and the apple wines? Do you start with a base spirit, or is it actually aged, proper aged, sort of like a wine? You get the apples and the honeys and make like a... Isn't those meads as well? Isn't a honey wine essentially a mead? I'm not too sure about the difference. Meads aren't very common in Australia. I do have one, but it's not very common. So what is the difference between a honey wine and an apple wine and like a mead? Does it have grapes in it? Might as well give it a try. That's true. But yes, what is the difference? Is it a wine with grapes in it? Do you start with a wine and add honey and grapes, or do you actually make it from scratch? Made the cider from scratch, get some apples and boil it down. Oh. Interesting. I have a cousin who makes bourbon. It's not very good. It's great in a bourbon and coke, I suppose, but it's awful otherwise. But he does make bourbon. And it's always made me sit and go, I really want to make a proper whiskey, you know? It'd be nice. See if I can make my own whiskey. Something to do with my retirement, I suppose. But yes, speaking of the prices of things, I was thinking before I got distracted. But yes. Be nice if you could describe it in the chat, Mac, of how you actually, well, not how exactly how you do it, but generally how it works. Because I'd be quite interested. But yes, what was I talking about? The pricing. It's funny. I talk about this being a $90, $100 bottle of whiskey. I got it for $85, $15 off, very good. There's some are more expensive, some are less expensive. Some don't get any cheaper, like Kenobi. Kenobi is never going to get any cheaper because it's really nice and it's a good gin. But it's interesting to think that I quite often buy alcohol that is the equivalent, or it was interesting to my nephew, at least he mentioned this to me. It's interesting that I buy things that are consumable, that will run out, or go off. Mostly run out. Most of the expensive stuff doesn't go off. That is the same price as most video games. So like you normally with apples and then strain out the solids, put in the juice bottle and bind yeast. Oh, interesting. That, I suppose that makes sense. Is that why it's wine yeast? That's why it's called an apple wine. I see. And I let it ferment for a month. Oh, only a month. But yes, I buy things that are commonly as pricey as video games. Video games, ostensibly, you will own forever. It's a longer sort of form thing, but he kind of made the joke that it's kind of funny that I buy so few video games, but I buy so much alcohol that is extensively less. And I'm like, it's just one of those differences in values I thought was quite interesting that he pointed out, that I buy a video game's worth of equivalent of alcohol quite often. It's just funny. I don't know, it's just something it's one of those price, like, the value of an item. It's interesting, the value of an item. I rarely ever buy games for full price. I always wait until they go down, unless they're a game I'm really looking forward to. I always buy them on sale. I bought the Yakuza 0 for, like, what, $15 or $5 or something like that. I get the most of mine for free, because every bloody game thing under the sun has free games that they give away every month. So I pay $70 in a year, and then I just get all the games in existence. It's very interesting, and then I emulate a lot of stuff. I used to buy a lot of full-price games, but even back in the day, I used to buy second-hand stuff and all that stuff, but I'm so willing to fork out the same amount of cash for full-priced, brand-new AAA game for a single bottle of consumable whiskey. Or a single bottle of consumable, gin. It's just a funny difference in values, I suppose. Because one of my nephews is always surprised by the amount I spend, because he would spend it on other things. But it's strange, eh? Really strange. I suppose the same for tea. Buy a lot of very expensive tea. Just something I thought. I don't know if it's interesting to anyone. It's kind of weird, the difference in values. That, to me, even when he said that, I went, well, it's worth it. And frankly, I think he thinks it's worth it after having the alcohol himself. But it's one of those things where, I guess, especially this Lafroig, it holds so much more than just the whiskey for me now. Because of its taste, its smell, the memories associated with those flavor profile. It is liquid nostalgia, I tell you. And I think my whole family is weak to this. Except for my siblings that don't drink. I have quite a few of them, and my father doesn't drink, so he wouldn't drink it. My mother's had a bit of nip of this. Back when she was a young man, before she married my father, she was quite the alcohol connoisseur, actually. Sherries, ports, fortified wines was her area, but she's had a lot of whiskies and the like. Spend more money on food than things that will last you a long time. That's true. I do too. It's quite expensive these days, isn't it, food? Food is a bloody pain. Oh, Ards. Oh, hello, Ards. It's good to see you new. Came to react to my song Alone With You by Ards. Describe to me the song, Ards. What kind of music are you? I'm not much of a musician, so I imagine I won't be able to give you a very glowing review. I'm not very good at it. You're better asking my nephew for that sort of thing. But yes, it's interesting. It's interesting. Value is a strange thing, isn't it? It's one of those, getting a bit philosophical, aren't I? But good God, we've been talking for 1 hour and 40 minutes. I can feel it. I could keep talking for a while longer. Age 10 years. I have to try the other two brands, the Ardbeg and the Lagunvilen, but that'll be months from now. And I've got to travel and drink every alcohol under the sun over in Japan too. I'm going to spend so much money on alcohol in Japan, you're not going to believe it. And on tea, actually, probably. I'm probably going to get a lot of tea. A lot of tea. But yes. Because if I go to Japan, I'm going to be spending far too much money. Oh well. I'm sure it'll be hopefully that'll happen sometime this year. Probably in mid or second half of the year. Yeah, I should do a review stream and do that. Should grab a heap of things, get a laptop that can stream, and sit in the hotel and review all of it. Or just record myself reviewing it as I go. It's hard to say. I don't know how much alcohol you can bring back on a plane, that's the thing. It's been I've never really tried. Yeah, see? Eric's drinking adventure of both teas. Eric's day drinking adventure. Where I both drink tea, and yes, I drink alcohol during the day. Well, I guess I wouldn't have to drive. Unless one of my nieces and nephews, well, one of my nephews gets Eric Drinks Across Japan. That's my next TV show. See it now on Amazon Prime. Eric's Drinks Across Japan. Maybe I should go in winter too. That'll be appropriate to my last step. Or by Hearth and Home. Winters Across Japan. Oh, goodness. But yes. Oh, my throat. It's getting a bit tough. But yes. Very good. It's been fun, actually. It's very interesting. I'm 15 minutes off 3 hours. I feel I have to go for 15 more minutes just to get to the 3 hours. I always forget to advertise myself on Twitter constantly, but well, c'est la vie. It's been a good chat. maybe I will end a bit earlier. I do need things to do and I need to eat some lunch. But yes. Oh yes, I should ask, how did everyone's Valentine's Day go? Everyone spend time with their significant other? I feel it's a bit mean to say that. But yes, Valentine's Day was a few days ago. Completely forgot about it. You see, I'm a bachelor and not currently in a relationship, and I doubt I will be. Look at me. I'm old. It's winter. Winter is coming to Japan. Eric's Drinking Adventure, only on Amazon Prime. It sounds like an Amazon Prime TV show. It really does. It sounds like something Amazon Prime would be doing, eh? Like a Man in Japan, the James May one. It's fine, shot people in the head, first video game to get my gen out. Oh dear. Oh dear. I suppose it's a healthy way of doing it than actually shooting people, I suppose. My throat is getting a bit dry. Oh yes, very interesting. I get some water here. Water bottle! Oh, goodness. Water of life. Even Eric can't finish that sentence without laughing. I didn't remember it until I made the joke yesterday night to my nephew. I was like, how was Valentine's Day, eh? And he looked at me and was like, why would you say that? Why, you know. And he's been a bit of a lonely one for a while, so I make fun of him for it. For as much as we banter about it, I don't think either of he really is looking for a relationship, but it is funny to talk about. I'm always like, oh, it's Valentine's Day, eh? Settle down for the night with a fun, the epic theatre voice guy, yes. This winter is coming to Japan. Eric's Drinking Adventure, only on Amazon Prime. That's my best try at that sort of epic theatre voice. Epic voice. But yes, it was very good. Very good indeed. Ah, goodness. Yes. Goodness, I want Elden Ring to come out. I'm a giddy child. Don't worry, we're less than 2 weeks from it away from now. Hey? I can't wait for my next streaming schedule just to be all Elden Ring, thank you. Other than that, I might finish it up there, actually. I think I'm running out of things to say and my throat hurts, because I haven't been drinking enough water and all of this. Ugh. Unfortunately, I also have a bit more to do today. I could have kept going. We should do this more often. You guys make great conversational partners, frankly. So thank you for that. The conversation was good. Next time I'll come with a few more things. Maybe I'll bring some stories from my days at that beach in nostalgia. Maybe I'll do one of these at night so I can drink for them. Get the liquid courage, get the stories flowing. But other than that, it's not quite 3 hours, but I'm pretty impressed by myself, thank you. I'm quite happy with myself for that. That was very good. Though it's almost all because of you fellas. You certainly helped me out with this one. Without you, this stream would not happen. This is what I always was worried about doing these sort of streams. I never thought I had enough people who would talk to me, you know? I felt like I had to sustain the whole thing on my own talking, which I did, I suppose, but... You know, there's a difference. Thanks for the stream. Thank you for watching. Thank you for talking as well. That extends to everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been very nice. But I'm always worried about not having someone to talk to. I feel I need something to bounce off when I'm doing these sort of conversations, because I can talk a lot, yes. But when I talk a lot, I'm usually bouncing off someone else in a conversation. I was apprehensive that my conversational skills would still work in this sort of situation, but it felt quite natural, so perhaps we'll do this more often. Add to the list of things to do, along with the cocktail streams and the poetry streams and all that sort of thing. Speaking of cocktail streams, I've got to get around to doing one of those. Or maybe a tea stream. The image is the opposite you chose to talk. Well, I'm glad it was interesting. It's more of a stream of consciousness. I only had about 3 topics. I'll tell you what the topics were. Why I don't do talking streams, or why I haven't done talking streams. The Lefroy. The nephew mentioning the alcohol prices. And the future stream. Future streams. And I still really didn't talk about... I didn't really talk about, the first anniversary that much. I mentioned it a few times and the things I could do during it, but still thinking about it. It's the 28th, so I'm definitely going to watch my original debut stream that you guys can't watch. It's hidden. It's hidden from you. Exclusive on that stream. Look out for it. Sorry, but yes. Doodle-doo, damn thing. Reconnecting and disconnecting, but being charismatic. I'm glad you think I'm charismatic. But conversations where I am 90% of it is something I've always been good at. But it's also a blessing. It's a curse as well as a blessing sometimes. A blessing with thorns. Because it never made me a very good health professional when I tried to become one, because you have to listen a lot more as a health professional than I naturally did. I did learn, but I had to actively do it. It's an active thing to get. If I'm doing that sort of thing. When you're trying to look for information from someone, it's a bit different just to talking. But I'll talk about that later. But thank you for telling me I'm charismatic. Very kind. Debut stream is exclusive. For Amazon Prime. That's very good. Oh, goodness. Maybe one day I'll be so famous, if I don't die first, that I'll be on Amazon Prime. An old man's adventure on Amazon Prime. You never know. Maybe it could happen. Could happen. You never know. I have a couple of good show ideas that I think Amazon Prime would really like. They like their subversive media with The Boys and the like. I have a couple of subversive ideas that you could make into a story. I am a daydreamer, a chronic daydreamer, you know? I have so many of those little... I read so many books when I was younger that I always used to try and create my own books. I never wrote. I never thought I could. Right. So I never did. It's the same with art. I never thought I could, so I never did. And then at this point, it's a bit late. But yeah, I always was a daydreamer, you know? And so, if Amazon Prime wants to get some of these old daydreams out of my head and onto, you know, the box office, well, go ahead, mate. It could. Jeff likes to throw money at making shows. Yes. But it's true that, well, maybe you'll give this daydreamer a chance. Yes, I have a lot of shows that have such a thing. And recently, in the last 15 years, I've actually daydreamed a bit more. I was surprised. You see, anime opened my mind up for a lot more stories, because I always did daydream they would always be of the style that I was reading at the time, or experiencing at the time. I've never lost that daydreamingness, and I'm glad I haven't, you know? It disappears often, for months on end, but sometimes I'll just get lost in my own head. It's amazing, I'd say, that people can go to bed without getting lost in their own memories or getting lost in their own stories that they make up. Because I always talk about it with my nephews. I'm always like, it would be nice if there was a story that did this, 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 and this, you know? That sort of thing. And I've never stopped doing it. First it was books, then it was TV shows, and now more recently it was the Japanese animations and their sort of tropes and styles. You can kind of add their sort of tropes and subvert their tropes and make stories. It's very interesting. They're probably the ones I'd offer. The older ones I've almost forgotten. Oh, and then when I was a kid, I always used to make up my own stories. Me and my brother used to run through the bloody streets of the town or run around the yard pretending we were, you know, fantasy heroes or chosen ones or magicians. Yeah, we were those sort of kids. Never stopped though. We just stopped running around doing it. We still have discussions. Me and my brother still occasionally sit down and talk about interesting things and the show he's watched and what we thought we'd find interesting if the show changed. We could probably make a podcast out of it, but as the joke always goes, I don't think we need another couple of old white fellas making another podcast. I guess most of them are young that are making podcasts, so we have that going for us. 2 oldies sitting across from each other. talking about the stuff they make and how it could be better. Talking about the romance novels they've read. Ah, very good. But yes. Other than that, I shall end it there before I get too distracted. I could keep talking about that for a while, but that'll be a topic for next time, maybe. But as always, good night, sweet dreams, and for those it's daytime, podcast title, those were the days. Have a couple of old whiskey macks and drink our way. Whisk our way with very nostalgic drinks like Autumn in Paris and penicillin or Freud. Very fancy. But yes. Let's stop myself before I get distracted. I do need to go off, actually. A bit after this. I'd keep going if I could. But good night. Sweet dreams. And, I guess, good night, sleep tight, and don't let the bug bites, I suppose. I have nothing clever to say. Have a glass of whiskey, liquid memories before you go to bed, and hope it's a good one that it brings up. Sleep well, and enjoy the rest of your day if it's a place where the rest of the day can be enjoyed. It's been very good. Thank you for being good audience members and talking with me. Thank you for humouring this old man. Toodaloo! I'll be back with another interesting tea next time, or drink next time.